That's dope.
Are we talking about photography at some point?
Yeah, let's.
That was
we should
the goal.
start it or something. So I know. Am I editing this? What are we doing?
I don't know.
I don't even fucking know, dude. This is how off the rails a couple episodes were.
Maybe we could put this at the end.
Can we just put a screenshot out and be like, you're not going to see it?
Now, to get back into the wedding photography, since this is a wedding podcast, let's talk about the most important thing. Are you on TikTok?
Welcome to the Wedding Crashers Podcast.
Like, why does your shit look so crisp, man?
Actually,
No,
yeah, I was gonna say your thing looks
looked
way better than it ever has.
I thought it looked blurry, but it's okay.
No,
I feel like mine looks blurry. Does it?
Usually you look like you're at 4,000 ISO. Now you look like you're at like 400 ISO.
Oh, Mike?
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I feel really self-conscious right now. I know you're all staring at me.
If it makes you feel better, I'm pretty sure I look like I'm at 4,000 ISO.
No, they're webcams.
They're
It's
webcams.
fine.
I try my best.
No, you look crisp and clear, Mike. I like it a lot.
Thanks. I meditated today, so I'm just glowing.
You fucking asshole.
I didn't. That's the problem. That's why the world's
So yeah,
going to
let's
shit.
totally talk about photography.
So I got a thing. I got a thing. I got a question to pose, and it's COVID-19 related. I'm sorry.
We're going to jump off with that.
So over the couple week period that we've been house ridden and all that kind of shit, I've been like really focusing on the website and like redoing stuff and like all that kind of work. Working on my back end, working on my SEO and stuff like that. And I was like,
Are you working on your back end? You doing squats, lunges?
Are you doing squats,
I
lunges?
love when
Bro.
you say that because I'm ready.
bro, I'm Greek.
Crunches?
I'm Greek. This shit doesn't need work. Okay.
Okay.
There's so many other jokes to make there. Anyway, so I've been working on all that stuff. And after putting in I'd say 72 hours straight of work, then taking a little bit off, then going right back into it, and like a week and a half straight of just like really fucking hustling because I like got the energy to finally do something after I got out of bed. I felt like not discouraged, but like I had like overwhelmed, and I was like, I have to stop at some point. And then like, I don't know, it just felt like what's the point right now? I don't know. It was weird because I was like so driven to get so much done, and then I had to like turn everything off. No, but does anybody feel that way? Not like what's the point as in like business won't come back, because I'm not thinking that way.
No, I got you. You mean like what's
there.
the point as in like maybe right now people aren't really shopping that much? And
well,
stuff
I wasn't seeing a return on the work.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, but like so my friend is a therapist. I don't have a therapist. I need one. Like I feel like everybody.
We
needs
all
one.
need one now.
Yeah,
right?
I don't
Everybody does.
have one right now, but my friend is a therapist, and I was talking to her about. I told you guys like that one day right after this all started. It was like 2 p.m. and I hadn't gotten out of bed. I hadn't brushed my teeth. I hadn't done anything. I was just like, I live in this bed now. It's over. But when I talked to her after that, I told her about that, and I told her I was like, I pulled myself out of the funk, but like sucks. And she gave me really good advice, and she was like, you need to give yourself like everything you feel is super reasonable. Like feeling shitty is super reasonable right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Like just give yourself a window where you're like, man, I feel super shitty. It's 12:30. At 1:30, the pity party's over. So,
Right.
So as long as you give yourself like a window where you're like, yes, I feel like crap and I don't want to do anything. It's super justified. Feeling that way, super justified.
Right.
But like, it's also not who your best self will be happy about later, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So you give yourself a window where you're like, I give myself permission to lay here for an hour and do nothing.
Yeah.
And then when pity party time is over, it's over and you move on.
It's a really good point. Hey, everybody, make a funny face real quick. We're going to take a screenshot of that. Nailed it. Cool.
Hey, so that's super interesting. Is there anything you would do on the other end of that though, where it's like this? And I felt like this is where I was at, like this continuous need and this continuous drive to change and fix, almost like tinkering, where like because there's like not a lot of inquiries coming in right now, or not a lot of different things happening right now, and so much uncertainty. I'm like, well, I keep changing, and I'm like, well, now I can make another fix. I can make another fix. I can make another fix.
You're trying to perfect it. Don't do that.
Right.
Like think about all the things that we want to do in our businesses when we have downtime. I just did a clip for Nikon about we were just like the ambassadors were all just trying to give people a little bit of something, you know, like it's really hard right now. We know that, and we're with everybody, and it's really hard for us too. And so the clip that I made, I talked about how I had a list of things I always want to do. But then when I finally get downtime, I'm like, oh my God, I have downtime. I want to see my kids and my mom and my best friend. And so then like when you have downtime, you live your life and then you have to start shooting weddings again. And so all the things we want to do, they all get drowned basically.
Right.
And so instead of like over focusing on one thing, like make that list first of all the shit you always wanted to do. For me, it was like, I need a new website. So I did that the first week and it's done. And I haven't looked at it since.
Wow.
And then there's so many other things on the list that it's like, if I really want to go be productive, I can go do one of these other things. By the way, I haven't been that productive, but like, you know, the website's done. The one that I always talk about automating the shit out of everything. And I've definitely done that a lot, but there are things that I wanted to automate that I haven't done yet. Like my vendor recommendations, I always end up sending them manually or telling them over the phone when really like I could set up an automated space for them to get that information. And I may as well do that now because when we do go back to work, we are going to be exhausted.
Yeah.
Because when it finally opens up, it's going to be every weekend.
Yeah.
So we were just talking about that. Going on your vendor wow, that's weird. Sorry guys, CTE moment. Going on your vendor recommendation thing.
Christ.
I've lately been using that as a doorway to follow up with people after their consult. Meaning like I drop in the idea that, hey, I'm going to drop off a list of vendors that maybe you'll want to check out, whatever. And in a way, it makes it so I can follow up with them without seeming salesy. Like they expect my follow-up email.
That's a good
It's
idea.
been working really well. It's like selling without selling.
That's great.
Yeah. Thanks. I feel validated now, Charmi. You're a rock star. You just said that was great.
Right,
I feel really good about myself. This was a bad day. We're turning this around.
Now, to get back into the wedding photography, since this is a wedding podcast, let's talk about the most important thing. Are you on TikTok?
So last August, a whole bunch of people at Nikon were like, you need to get on TikTok. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, am I doing a dance, like a coordinated dance with my camera? Like, what am I doing? Yeah.
That was it.
I don't know what to do on TikTok. And then all my younger cousins have been like, why aren't you on TikTok? You should be on. I'm like, what am I doing on? I still don't understand what to do with it. What do I do with it?
Stuff and things.
Stuff and things. Okay.
Right.
So I'm wondering, like, do I ask my brides to like coordinate a dance with me for TikTok? Like,
No.
That would be fun.
Maybe, but no.
I feel like I have a couple that might be like, okay, let's do this. But I feel like most of them are going to be like, bitch, this is my wedding. I don't have time for you.
So we found, as soon as I got into TikTok, I found like you hear the references, and I found like a couple couples that were like super into TikTok, and I was like, yo, are we doing this? Like I wasn't making anything with them, but like I made the jokes the whole day with them, and they thought it was awesome and funny. But who?
No, TikTok's a good thing.
Was it Marshall? Marshall had the thing about it. It brought him like a bunch of extra followers on Instagram.
20 Instagram followers. He tracked
on one
back to
post that he did nothing with.
My thing with TikTok is it's that feeling like I know I'm not old, but I don't understand TikTok, and I'm like, wow, is this that moment where like people didn't think they should go on Instagram or Facebook? Like, I should be on there for business, but I don't know how to be on there for business.
No, I
in
had
an
that
efficient way.
moment with I had that moment with Snapchat.
Yeah, but you were right.
Years ago.
You were totally
Yeah,
right, though.
right.
You shouldn't go on Snapchat.
Yeah.
Snapchat's for one thing, and I've said it time and time again, and I will say it again.
Pictures of your zucchini plants.
Dick pics.
Pictures of your zucchini.
That's it. That's the only thing TikTok or Snapchat's for. TikTok is not for that. Don't do that.
I think I am too old.
No, you're not. It's getting taken over by an older crowd now. It started out as these young kids, and it was kind of like Facebook, right? Facebook at first, or MySpace at first, was like super young crowd. Then it built up. TikTok's doing the same thing right now. You see a lot of the millennial generation, right? It's a big like Gen Z thing. You see a lot of the millennial generation, though, people in their mid-20s, early 30s, moving into this thing. People putting up stuff with their kids.
I feel like you think I'm younger than I am.
I don't know. I just legitimately don't know how old you are, and I would never dare to assume because I'm just not that person.
She's
25.
29.
Oh,
25.
That's so sweet. No.
Well, I wouldn't assume that based on what you just said.
I'm the oldest millennial. I'm gonna turn 39 this year.
No, Ted's like 45, so he's way older. So.
Yeah, Ted's definitely older than you.
But the oldest millennial, like I live on the line of Gen X and millennial.
Yeah, Mike and I just turned 30.
Yeah, y'all are young.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like it.
Doesn't fucking feel like it.
You're gonna rebound from this so much better than like us.
No, we're like that living Joe Exotic meme where it's like I will never financially recover from this.
Right, for sure.
I'm just gonna throw my keep going.
Okay,
That might be the second most important discussion after TikTok is, did you watch Tiger King?
No, it's did Carol Baskin kill her husband?
Oh yeah, for sure.
She
Oh,
obviously
for
did.
sure.
She totally did.
Oh, I couldn't even fit him in that meat grinder. It's only 6 inches wide. I would have had to hack him up and put him in piece by piece, exactly like I did. Blah!
She's like, and you couldn't just hack him up. You need a serrated knife like this big. You're like, whoa.
Like this one right here.
Too much information, Carol. Too
And
much.
before that, you got to dip them in sardine oil so the tiger eats them.
That was
She
so weird.
definitely fed the poor man to the pet.
That poor bastard.
Yo, did you see they reopened that case? How crazy is that?
That's good.
That's
But,
good.
I feel like the tiger won't have evidence.
I feel like that tiger's gone. But, and if not, he is now.
Yeah.
It's on.
Yeah, she fed that tiger to another tiger.
Another tiger.
Yeah.
And then
You know what's
I don't-
crazy? That Doc Antle dude. So you know
I
at
was
the
going to
end,
say this.
at
The
the
guy
end, they,
thinks he's Indian for some reason. He's
for sure.
not.
That's cultural appropriation at its finest. I will say.
actual cultural
That's for real. For real. No,
That's for
no,
real,
but
for real.
no, but that raid that they talk about at the end
Yeah.
was like 4 months ago or 5 months ago. Like that
You
was
know-
super recent.
You know how he calls himself Bhagawan?
Fucking
Yeah.
yeah.
First of all, Bhagawan.
That's a fucking Pokemon.
Don't
Sorry,
think so.
I'm playing a lot of Pokemon right now. I'm sorry.
So is Charmander. Charmander is also a Pokemon.
Oh, sure.
Bhagawan is like the wrong pronunciation, but he's literally calling him. It's called Bhagwan. That's
Yeah.
how we say it. Bhagwan. It means God. Like he
Yeah.
calls
Yeah.
himself God.
He's a douchebag for sure. Real quick, and I hate to say this because I'm sure there's some guys that pull it off. The dude's got a ponytail. Like you're a douchebag. You're a
He's not
douchebag.
someone who can pull. There's like
No.
men that
He's
can-
an old white dude with a ponytail. Like you
I just
can't-
want to
I can't do
say,
it.
I
Mike
just
met
wanna,
him. Mike met him. He went there.
never said I met him. I said the one vacation
He slept with him.
I
Mike
got to
was-
train tigers.
Mike
No.
was an apprentice.
Shut up. Let me tell you my story, Loch Ness Monster. We went on one vacation when I was a kid, and I want to say I was in kindergarten, and we went to Myrtle Beach, and we went to a zoo there. And what like made this memory come back was I remember them talking about the guy that owned the zoo had just worked on like Dr. Dolittle and stuff like that. All his animals were in it. And then in this documentary, he talks about it, and I was like, "Oh wow, that's the zoo we went to." Like that's it, Ted. That's the whole story. I didn't see it.
Kindergarten.
Dude,
If
we
you
went
when you were in
there-
Kindergarten. You were too old for him.
Probably.
I don't think the dude's a pedophile. He goes after like 17-year-old girls.
It was a joke, and you got it. You got it.
I mean, that's close enough. Close enough.
That's
Close enough.
to be
Hey,
that.
what's with that? Like they both did that. That was weird. Is that a thing? With,
Well,
like,
that
animal
guy.
people?
I think Joe Exotic kind of wanted to be a little bit like Doc Antle, so he's going for like the younger dudes.
By the way, I'm now convinced that Netflix can make a documentary out of anything, and I'm gonna love it. Like they're so good at it.
Okay, I didn't enjoy Tiger King though. I really didn't.
I did.
No, it made
I
me feel
really
sad.
liked.
It made me feel really sad.
This might be polarizing, but I really liked Making a Murderer. That was one of my favorite.
I did
documentaries.
Wait,
A lot of
you
people
said
like
that earlier about Disney, and I was like, wait, is he saying this is polarizing that people go to Disney a lot?
No,
Like, I don't
polarizing
get it.
because people seem to either love it or they're like, "Oh, you're a shitbag for going there. You need to go somewhere else."
There are a lot of people who are very anti-Disney for some
Yeah,
reason. I love it.
weird.
Really?
I was told at
Who's
work that I was
anti-Disney?
selling that Disney sells lies to children. I was like, my kids don't think that fucking
that's
Tinkerbell is
not-
real, you idiots.
Yeah, people are
I
like,
was
"Shouldn't go to
like-
Disney," and I'm like, "Have you had the food at
Never been
Disney?
there.
You should go to
I
Disney."
just want to be happy, and Disney
Yeah.
makes you happy.
You
Right.
get it. Ted doesn't get it.
Yeah, you know what else
get
makes
it.
me happy? TikTok.
When I
And
was
I'm not.
three, my
I'm not
dad-
lying.
We're back. TikTok.
Hey, so Charmy, I would love to hear a little bit about how you became a Nikon ambassador. I think that'd be a
Sweet
cool-
transition, Ted.
I'm proud of
best at
you.
those.
That was
Segue.
that was smooth.
People always ask me. So it depends. I wish there was a clear context in which people would ask me this question because
I wish you changed the story every time someone asks you, so when they get together, they tell a different story.
You want to know how I got
No, I
these
heard-
scars?
It's like when Jack Sparrow escaped from the island. We're gonna get
Just
sued.
kidding. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, so the short version is I have been in business since 2008, and I've been like working my behind off, keeping my head down, and just like working. I've been in the Facebook groups forever, kind of helping, participating, or whatever. But I always just kind of kept my head down and like I wasn't a big part of the industry. I never went to WPPI. for a decade I didn't go to WPPI just because I felt like I wanted to focus on what I was doing and like provide for my family and then like live life. Whereas I feel like sometimes the industry can be a lot. It can like eat you alive if you let it.
Mm-hmm.
So then, and like I'm talking to 3 white guys, so we're about to find out how you feel about this. But I also
Thanks for pointing that out.
I love you. I have to
You're the
say.
first person that's pointed it out, and I appreciate it.
so just I would notice that I was not very represented in the in the industry. Like, even if I did want to go learn, there were a lot of cool white guys to learn from, but
Were they cool though?
Yeah.
Were they?
A lot of douchey white guys. A lot of douchey white guys to learn from.
Jerry's cool. I love Jerry. Jerry's
Yeah, that's
really
right.
Jerry.
Jerry Jonas.
Oh yeah.
He's amazing.
Fourth Jonas brother.
I took his workshop and I learned a lot.
Yeah, he's lovely. But he would tell you he's not white. He's Greek. So
yeah, he's my people.
Yeah.
That's right. So it's 2 white guys and two white guys and a Greek. I have a little bit of Irish and it balances everything out.
So in general, like when I looked at the industry, nobody looked like me, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't really do anything about it or say anything about it. But you notice, like when you are not white and you walk into any room in America, you do inventory. You're like, where are my safe people? Like, just in case. Like, where are the people who understand my situation? And so when you look at the industry, you do the same thing. You're like, so where's my people that understand me? And not only that, I'm in a niche, right? I shoot Indian weddings. And so I'd be learning from people who are teaching me things. So I'm like, I can't do that in an Indian wedding. Like, that's not realistic. And
right.
so whatever. I just thought, let me keep my head down. Let me function and they'll be fine. But then Walter from Mystic approached me sometime in 2017 or 2016. God, what year are we in?
I don't even know anymore.
Yeah, so 2015, 2016 or something, Walter was like, you should teach. And I was like, I have nothing to teach anyone. And he was like, no, you should teach. And I told him I'd think about it. And I ended up saying yes, because I was like, how do you sit in your room and judge the fact that there's nobody in the industry that looks like you on stage? But then when somebody asks you to go do that, you're going to be like, no, I don't want to. Like, it doesn't work, right? Like, I'm not doing my part then, and I can't, I felt like I couldn't complain anymore if I didn't try to do it. And so I did it. And I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to dive all the way in. And so something else that frustrates me is watching people shoot Indian weddings who don't understand Indian weddings and then doing a bad job. And so my talk at Mystic was about how to shoot an Indian wedding if you are not a part of the culture, like teaching people what's important, teaching people, where they should be involved, shouldn't be involved. So Nikon happened to be in the room that day. And obviously I didn't go from that to being an ambassador overnight, but they happened to be in the room that day. They watched me speak at that conference and they must have gone back and talked about it. At some point I got invited to speak for them and I spoke for them. And then I went to WPPI and I spoke for them. It was my first time at WPPI and I got to speak at Nikon Theater, which was the most stressful thing I've ever done before COVID.
And there we are.
We're back.
Well, listen, my frame of reference for stress has just changed. I feel like I'm going to have a lighter life in general. I still think a therapist would be helpful. So.
Yeah. I actually forgot that you were telling us this story about how you became a Nikon ambassador. I was like, I want to know where this goes. It's awesome. I want to know.
Sorry, I'm getting there. Yeah. So I started teaching for them and then I don't know, I found my confidence and I started teaching a lot and I started judging print competitions and speaking in other conferences and then Nikon would send me to like small camera shops to teach and then they were like, hey, so we think this is good, what do you think? And I was like, yeah, it's cool.
I'm into it.
Yeah. And now nobody who looks like me can ever say that nobody who looks like them is represented up there. And like,
it's awesome.
It's cool to be that person who's like, see, I did it. Now you could do it.
Right. And we love
that's
to hear
really
that.
Cool. Actually, that's like, I love that.
Yeah. It's
awesome.
sick. That's the shit that and again, we're super represented. So I would never think of that. You know what I mean? It's not. It's something I never thought of. That's
All
why
right,
we
listen,
love to hear that.
you just disowned us, and now you want to speak for us again. You stop that over there.
I said I had a little Irish in me.
So the reason I noted that the three of you are white guys, and I didn't know how you feel about it, is just sometimes my just mentioning that I'm not white can make people be like, oh, you mentioned it, and now I'm nervous and I don't know what to do, and I'm very stressed.
Fuck that.
Like,
Yeah, we don't care. You're cool.
You're good. You're good. No, we love it. Seriously.
I didn't even blink at that.
Anything that
I worked at Apple before, and they trained me like so much about, just the way the world was, like, becoming homeschooled and then going through 20 different jobs in my younger life to Apple. Like, they really prepared me for pretty much everything in life. And
for what? Treating everyone like a human?
Jesus Christ, dude. What the fuck?
Like,
what was homeschooling like?
You're like, Apple taught me how not to be a real piece of shit.
No, you think about it. Like, if you work, let's say, at a construction job and you have the same 5 guys you work with all the time, like, you're going to learn a lot of things about that. But Apple is like so corporate and global. They bring in all the wealth of knowledge about everything that culturally is appropriate for your country, but also legal with human resources. Like, basically, they teach you every single thing you're not supposed to do and supposed to do in the workplace.
No, but that's super important, right? Because if we grow up in our bubble, we're like, so I have friends, like white guy friends, who grew up only around white people, and when we first became friends, they'd say crazy shit in my presence.
That's just because we're crazy.
We've all done it. Yeah, you learn.
Right, and like
you gonna learn
today.
And like being around me and like I have, on one hand, I have a lot of patience for that stuff because I just feel like I have a responsibility to make the world better for my kids, and if I can change people's minds, then they will teach their kids differently, and so the world will be better for my kids, right? But then on the other hand, if you watch me online sometimes, I have very little patience for it. It really depends on the day and who you are. I don't know.
Right, and I think watching it happen to someone else is a different situation, right? It's like, when someone says something to you, you can kind of be like, oh, fuck, that person's an asshole, whatever. And just like kind of brush it off. But watching it happen to somebody else, you're like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually had, I love that. And now I sit on the board of a nonprofit that does things with people with Down syndrome.
Yeah.
And I listen to some of the triggers that people say to these people and the families. And I'm like, oh man, like I've said that stuff. Like I didn't mean it in a hurtful way, but now you see how it affects the people and what's going on in their brain. And you're like, all right, I have to change the way I'm saying things. Like totally.
Even, we all did that, right? Like I grew up in America in the 80s and 90s. So in high school, I definitely said things like, oh my God, that's so gay. Like,
yeah, totally.
Did I understand what I was saying? I didn't. And now that I know, I would never. Ever.
Right.
No, and the only way you get that is if somebody addresses it. I said that to a gay person. I said, that's gay. And I was like, like I was in musical theater for 14 years, right? That's a big part of that culture. And some of my closest friends are gay or LGBTQ. And I said it to a friend of mine. He goes like, not cool, man. And I was like, oh shit. Like I didn't mean it like that. Like obviously I didn't mean that. Like we're really close. Like I obviously didn't mean it like that. I just meant like that. Yeah. Like, and it took that and some of the shit. And like, I work in an industrial place with all white men, 55 and over, who when you say something like that, they go, fuck that. I'm going to say whatever I want. I can't say that now. And I go like, no, you can't. You can't.
That mentality is what separates a lot of men in our generation who
crazy.
I do meet a lot more white men in our generation who are like, oh, if you check me, I'll be uncomfortable, but I'm going to change.
Oh yeah, for sure. You have to. That's the only way we learn.
Yeah, but like I think that generation, I don't know what it is about that generation that makes them feel like they're being robbed of something.
They're like, fucking douchebags.
You're like, you feel really strong.
They are the ones who are. They're the ones. Wait. They're the ones who are mad about participation trophies, and they're the ones who fucking made participation trophies.
Wait. My wife and I were talking about this the other day. Assholes. I don't know about you guys, but like we were driving down our street, and there was an older guy, let's say 50 years old, on his driveway, not like a super nice house. The confidence these people have, like staring you down as you drive by. And I'm like, dude, there are times I won't take the garbage out because my neighbor's out and I don't have the confidence to walk out there. Like, where did they get this shit that they say the things and do the things they did?
Wasn't it the 2008 housing crash?
I'll tell you my story about that someday. What's cool about the photography community though is I find that that older generation, if they're also artists, they feel differently about it than people who are not.
Yeah,
like,
some of them.
Good.
Something about being in artistry makes them more open-minded and makes them more empathetic. And so when you tell them, oh, that's not a thing, they're just more open to it. Not everybody, obviously.
Yeah.
But I find that the photography community like breeds that kind of empathy. Like, we're around people and feelings all day long. Like, you gotta learn to.
Right.
I think where you're at in the country matters too. Do you remember when we were in Tennessee?
For
Okay, so
sure.
the photographer was 80
Holy
years old.
shit.
And
Is this part not going in the show?
And the pastor was, let's say, not white. And the stuff he was saying to the pastor, we're like, whoa, there's going to be a fight. There was no fight. Like,
The guy was like,
accepted.
all right.
It was bad. I'm not going to say any of it on the podcast, but
It was fucking
bad.
crazy. It was the craziest shit I've ever seen so a white person say to a black person, and the guy was just like fucking cool with it. He was the pastor was like, no problem, like hugging him, no problem, buddy. Like,
you should try this shit in Philly.
what the fuck?
I almost feel like in some parts of the country, though, if you're a person of color or a black person, you have to like you're like, well, I want to live today, so
It was weird.
like you're weighing your survival.
It was
Maybe.
fucking nuts.
I've had a weird. So I did a photography boot camp type thing once, and they kind of research you and find out what would challenge you the most. And in my culture, we don't do nursing homes, like at all. Like my grandfather, he's 100 years old. He lived with my parents until he was 98. He just moved back to India just because he feels like he'll be spoiled there, which is probably true. My grandmother, my other grandmother, she's 90. She's about to be 90. She lives with my parents. I think I'm Italian and I talk with my hands.
Gabagool.
A lot. So,
it's all good.
but she, like, that's just our norm, is that our elderly folks, like, they live with us forever, and unless there's some extreme situation, they don't suffer. So they intentionally put me in a nursing home to shoot for 48 hours, and knowing that I would be massively uncomfortable in there. And I was. Also, it was a nursing home in a very remote part of Texas. So,
Nice.
so I got told
That's scary for me.
They were every resident in the nursing home was super, super kind to me. I did get a lot of like, oh, honey, you're so exotic looking.
Bless your heart.
Like, oh.
Bless your heart.
But the second day that I was there, so part of the challenge was, I don't know if you guys are like this. I'm like this still, but now I'm conscious of it. I can be, when I'm shooting, if something moves over there, I'm like, squirrel. Like, I chase the stupid squirrel instead of paying attention to what I'm doing. And so the whole challenge was to get you to pay attention to your frame and like be patient. And so it was the end of the second day. I'm like, I can do this. And so I'm standing against this back wall, and everybody's in the auditorium for church. And the pastor comes in, and these are all old people. So I, in my mind, was like, at some point, this pastor is going to be like, amen, or hallelujah. And all these women, somebody's going to put a hand up, and that's my shot, right? So I'm anticipating this. First of all, that never happened. Second, this man started talking crazy about brown people being pushed back over the border, and that's what they were going to pray for. And I was like, just keep the camera to your face. Maybe he won't be able to tell you're brown.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
So dog.
Don't mess with Tejas. They're
so
crazy.
uncomfortable.
We see some crazy shit like that at weddings, like where they talk about, marriage is between a man and a woman and stuff like that. I'm like, what the fuck? What are we doing right now, man?
It's especially uncomfortable when you know that the bride and groom have friends in the audience.
Right.
Hey.
Yeah. Don't share those views. I'm like, why are we doing this? What's happening?
Yeah.
Crazy. I'm cool if that's your views. Like, I'm really not cool,
Yeah.
but like fucking whatever. But like, is a wedding the time to bring that shit up? Like, there's stuff. What was the one we did where the girl did a reading? The one bridesmaid came up and did a reading, and she did it like really over the top. And the guy was like, the priest said everything but like, holy shit, that got me fucking going. Like, he was like, wow, that was a really vivacious reading.
Vivacious.
You remember that?
I did. That was on my birthday. That was at the Pleasantdale Chateau wedding.
Oh, so roll it back.
There's a lot of stuff that happens that's inappropriate at weddings.
Holy shit.
A lot.
That was a fucking
I
insane
remember
wedding.
that. I remember that. That was funny.
Like we have stories to tell. Like every single one of us, when we retire, should write a book of short stories.
Right.
Like, what would be your?
You know what's funny? I every time people do those things in the polls and the groups, the Facebook groups about what's the craziest thing that ever happened to you, or what's the what's this type of thing that happened to you at a wedding. I don't know if you're like this. Anybody is like this, but I tend to forget those things so fast, and I think it's purposeful. Like my positivity trick kicks in, and it's like, nope, that's a bad thing. Like, gotta get that out of your mind, and I completely forget about it. I don't even remember them for the most part.
So I remember all of them because the way that my brain works to be positive is I can laugh at anything. Like I flew out of a car once.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you have like one of those squirrel suits on, or
are you not going to tell this story, or are you just going to keep going? So
Hold
I flew out
up.
of a car.
So I was.
Wait a minute, I gotta get my popcorn.
I was 10 and we were going to Disney World, and my mom was driving, and we were all like, sleeping, and like, it was 1991, and so seatbelt laws weren't a thing.
Right.
And so we had one of those minivans with captain's chairs, and so I was sleeping between the captain's chairs, and I was 10 years old, and
sounds normal.
There were 3 people in the back and 2 people in the middle. My brother was 2, and he was strapped in his car seat. And the car hit the divider, and it rolled 3 times, and I got chucked out of a window. And a truck was like coming towards us, and it turned and like blocked the highway so that we didn't get run over. But 4 of us were ejected from the car. We all lived. It's fine. I'm smiling about it.
It's all good. It's all good.
But like the way that my brain works, I don't forget bad things. I like I become punch drunk about them. Like they're just
That's funny.
You can't.
So
that's so good.
I have to talk about this. So
No, you don't.
No, you probably don't. If you have to preface it
when
that
I
way, you
was
probably don't.
when I was 7, so yeah, 1991.
I have 200 and something stitches on my face. They start.
Really?
Oh wow.
They go through here, up through my forehead, and they end like.
Oh wow.
Charmy's badass.
My
Look at that.
entire
Yeah.
came off, and they put
BA.
that on.
That's
Oh,
pretty
wow.
awesome.
That's why that boy
So-
used to call me ugly. He called me Scarface, and he said I was ugly.
But Scarface is cool.
Scarface is
Yeah.
fucking badass. The world's your oyster.
Like I said, he's hideous now. So
The seatbelt rule thing you're totally right about, because same year, 1991,
Yeah.
My parents had a little tiny 2-seater like Ford Ranger truck, and we were going to Maine, me and my brother, my mom and dad. So we drove to Maine, and my dad built this thing he called a bunk box. It basically took up half of the bed of the truck, and it spanned the width of it. It had like plexiglass windows in the front and sides, and then an inner tube, like a rubber tire inner tube between the box and the cabin of the truck. And so we could talk to my mom and dad and get handed food back and forth. But we sat in this box in the back of the truck all the way to Maine and then back to go camping. So that was like a normal thing for us.
I'm super sure that was
later on.
Always illegal. Like, just guessing, that was always illegal.
We had like curtains and everything and like pillows in there. So
you know what actually failed was the mechanism that they had to just fucking release the box. He's like, I'm gonna get rid of these fucking kids. Boom! Shit, it's stuck.
I get really mad at people who are like, I never wore seatbelt laws are stupid. I never wore my seatbelt, and we were all fine. Like, because they weren't about car seat laws, and I'm always like, hi.
Yeah.
I was
no, you fucking weren't. Lots of people fucking died, and you just didn't know about it, you dumb bastard.
Yes.
Now they don't.
Someone was just Skyping with us yesterday. One of my wife's friends had a baby. They were in labor for like 36 hours, and they ended up having to do a C-section.
Yikes.
And the person that was Skyping was like, man, what did they used to do back in the day when they couldn't do C-sections? Like, they just had to tough it out. And I was like, no, they fucking died.
Yeah,
Like, the number one cause of death was childbirth. They're like, oh, no.
Yeah, laughter is the way that I cope with everything.
Yeah.
My weirdest wedding experience, though, was definitely the time that the bride put her dress on the sprinkler. And
what? That was you? No, I was kidding.
Wait, was that you? Was that her? No, that was different. No, it was different.
I'm joking.
Me and Mike went to a wedding with bride prep, walked in the door of the hotel. They wouldn't let us into the hotel until we promised to not hang the dress.
No, this one was up North Jersey by the Grand Marquis.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the West
Dude, that was the craziest thing.
Round before.
What?
And if you read the reviews, you will see that the reviews say, this room smells musky. It's so weird.
Wait, I think I saw you tell this story before. Didn't like they have to cancel the wedding that was happening in that hotel?
Yeah, they had to cancel someone else's wedding that was there.
Holy shit.
Married there. She was getting married at like, what's that glass place? I don't know. She was getting married somewhere else. And so, but it was someone else's wedding that got canceled.
You said glass place. You talking about Wheaton Arts?
No, it's like the mansion.
Oh, mansion on, not mansion on Main.
You're talking about the Marriott.
The mansion on Main?
It's the mansion on Main. Is it like, it's by Cherry Hill-ish? Kind of like Cinnamon-ish? Yeah. That's a place we shot with Jenna and James.
So I got lucky that I didn't go there for getting ready because she was like, no, I don't want to do getting ready at the hotel. I want to do getting ready at the mansion itself. And I was like, okay, I'll meet you straight at the mansion. I get there, 2 hours go by, nobody's there. And I'm like, so I'm calling my husband because my husband's second shooting with me, and he is with the groom because I had dropped him off at the groom's house. And finally, my husband calls me back and he's like, you're not going to believe this shit. Like, we're on a way, and the bride will get there eventually. She had to take her dress to a dry cleaner because she tripped and caught her dress, which she had hung on the sprinkler.
Oh my God.
And the water was everywhere, and the lobby caved in.
Fuck.
So eventually
Dude.
she came. We took her photos in her North Face and her leggings. Her wedding photos, her formal wedding photos, are in her North Face and leggings.
Get
Did
the
you
fuck
put it
out.
black and white with some grain? That's a fearless photo, right?
Fearless photo. Yes. Fucking dope. So fearless.
There. There's never been anything more fearless than that.
They're never going to sponsor us ever.
Never, dude. I just became a member, man. Come on.
I don't have any fearless awards, but I've only entered one time.
I did what I had to do. I'm sorry.
Wait, didn't you judge a Fearless Award?
No regrets.
Weren't you a judge before?
I have
Yeah.
judged fearless awards.
You didn't pick your own photo? What the fuck is wrong with you?
I did submit. Listen, I get the you should submit photos lecture like pretty frequently, but nobody got time.
Has
Like,
anybody here done that?
the submitting photos is for glory, right? That's what it's for.
I don't know.
Well, so that's a great topic to talk about. So the me and Mike and Tommy, the Wedding Crashers podcast this month started a book club, and our first book, prior to that we had on this author.
Nice plug.
But basically there's two books. We had on a guest a couple weeks ago. His name was Chris Smith. He wrote the book called The Conversion Code. And then this month in our book club, we're going over a book called Building a Story Brand. And a lot of the stuff we're learning about with this guy in our group named Marshall, who's a super cool dude. We're probably gonna have an episode with him soon. Is about SEO. And SEO is this like monstrous world of information that I don't think I'm ever gonna understand all of it ever. But one of the big things they talk about in there is link backs to your website and how important that is, and how a lot of it has to be very organic. Like you can't just sign up for a bunch of like weird social media accounts that no one's ever heard of to get, credit on it, because Google will know the difference and, dink you for it. But if you get natural organic link backs from like blog post articles, news articles, or website submissions from like publications, then those are legit and they'll like link back to your website, and that gives you a lot of credit, or like authority it's called.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like why I never really cared about submitting to photos before, but now I'm like, oh, I want to do this. This is going to help me a bunch.
I kind of have the mother though of link backs.
What do you got?
Yeah.
Is it Martha Stewart weddings?
Nikon.
Like, yeah,
Oh,
good
nice.
point.
That's
Fair
true.
enough. Fair enough.
Awesome.
That's true.
Fair enough.
Like,
Boom.
Nikon
It's pretty cool.
Links to my site.
Well, now I want to be a Nikon ambassador.
She's like, boom, roasted. Let's
So
move
wait,
on.
so do you like Nikon a lot, or do you think it's like a really good company, better than Sony maybe?
Ted, she's an
No,
ambassador.
no,
We know where this is going.
no.
Hey, I don't give any damns about Sony, and I have a variety of opinions. But so Nikon, so quick backstory, I used to be a Canon shooter. That's how I started.
Cool.
Rebel. Do you have a Rebel?
Yeah, like
That's what I was. Yeah, everybody did.
everybody kind of started with a Rebel.
No, I started with a Sony.
Well, in the good old days.
Well,
This-
moving on.
This feels like it's gonna get racist. I don't know why. It might have been the voice you did. I don't know.
Hey, can we mention that Ted did a microaggression towards me? I saw that.
Yeah.
When, where,
Sure.
what, where, why?
Ageist. There was going to be some ageism there.
Yeah, they're aging me. I'm older than them, so they're mad at me for it, and they're judging me for it.
So I started with a Canon, but a couple years in, do you guys know Dave Shea? Wonderful dude.
Yeah, I know Dave.
I've seen his name in the groups.
Yeah. Same.
I've never met him, but I know who he is.
Super good guy. he was second shooting for me, and I was complaining about my camera on the dance floor. I'm like, it keeps hunting, it's driving me nuts, I'm so mad. Like, I was just so frustrated and so pissed off and whatever. And that was every wedding for me. Every wedding on the reception, like during the reception, Indian weddings are like mosh pits, right? So already I've come home with a black eye before. Like, Indian weddings are something else on the dance floor.
That's dope.
I don't want to have to fight my camera, but I was doing that. Every reception, I was fighting my camera. So Dave Shea's second shooting for me, and he's like, you know what? I'm sick of your complaining. Here's a Nikon. Go shoot the dance floor with it. And I was like, okay, like, it's going to be that much better. Okay. So I took his Nikon and I hit the dance floor, and it didn't hunt once. And I went home and I looked at my files, and I was like, every single one is sharp. I literally sold all my gear that week.
That's awesome.
To Nikon. And I have never had any regrets. But aside from the fact that the gear, it makes me very, very, very happy. It is a great company. Like, they never ask me to push gear. They're always just like, no, like, do good work and inspire other people to do good work. Like,
that's awesome.
Gear is, I just feel like an ambassador's job is not going to be to hawk gear. I've been accused of that before, for sure. It happens all the time where people are like, you're not allowed to say anything bad. I'm like, well, I'm not allowed to say anything bad about any company, because I'm a professional who doesn't feel the need to bash anyone. But like, you know, I have nothing actually bad to say, because they're lovely and like, they're super respectful. And like, you know, obviously it's come up to people before that I'm the first woman of color ambassador at not just one company, but more. But like, that they've never made me feel any kind of way about that. They're super respected and very like, this is your craft and you're good at it, and go do your thing. And like, they never, you know, when they give me a project, they trust me to execute on it. They don't micromanage. They're wonderful. So
that's awesome.
I love the company as people. Like, they're all really celebratory of the craft, and they're all obsessed with the craft, which is great, right? Like, you work for a company or work with a company. I don't work for them, but you work with a company that actually cares about the craft, then they care about the gear that they're making for you to create that craft. So when we talk to them too, they care.
So that's interesting. That's something we talk about sometimes. And like, we always say, like, we mess with Ted about like Nikon. We mess with other people like Canon, because we're Sony shooters, and people mess with us about that. It's in jest, but like, every single company puts out amazing gear. There's no, whether you pick Nikon, Canon, Sony, Lumix is, what Fujifilm, whatever, you're gonna, if you're good, you're gonna get good. You're gonna get good shit. You're gonna get good shit, unless you get Olympus. But I mean, I'm kidding. No. But my thing is like, whatever you use, you're gonna get good stuff. And like, so what we always wonder is, we're talking about like, oh, why doesn't this company put out this kind of camera? Why doesn't this company put out this kind of camera? How much are we represented in the wedding industry, or like as professional photographers, in their whole makeup? Like, do they really give a shit about us?
Yeah.
When you say like they respect the craft, like, you're talking about art photography as well, and all that kind of stuff. But.
No, even us. I had the opportunity to go to Tokyo a couple of years ago. And when I went to Tokyo, and I was super nervous about this, so I went to Tokyo to film a kind of a commercial for the new mirrorless camera. They're not new anymore. Now they're 3 years old. But for the mirrorless cameras. And when I was out there shooting the commercial, they were like, hey, so we would love for you to make a 10-minute presentation to all the engineers at Nikon. And I was like, excuse me? Like, what? You want me to talk to all the engineers at Nikon? And they're like, yeah, we want you to be honest about what you like and what you don't like. And they are really excited to hear from you. And I was like, why? I don't know. Can you imagine, whatever company you work with, can you imagine like going to their engineers and being like, so here's what I don't like? Like, that's hard, right?
No.
But they were like, they wanted to hear. So I had a lot of good things to say too, but don't you feel like no matter how great your camera is, the way that your brain works makes you want the next thing?
Of course, yeah.
Makes you want one more card slot, right?
Oh, shit. I wasn't going to do it, man. I wasn't going to do it. I held back.
Comfortable with my very sturdy card.
I'm kidding.
Yikes.
I love that camera.
You know what? I only have 2 shirts clean right now. I know I have plenty of time to do laundry.
What does that have to do with this?
So I wore this shirt because I was going to wear my Nikon Z shirt, and I was like, nah, Tommy's gonna be a jerk about it and talk about my one card slot. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do it. So I didn't wear it, but I should have. Like, that's what I should.
They gave you a free. They gave you a free T-shirt instead of a second card slot. What else do you want?
Hey Ted, are you saying they did not give you a backup T-shirt? Is that what you're saying right now?
That's right. That's right.
I'm gonna go.
But no, that's what I shoot. That's all I shoot.
Time out. Let Charmi talk.
I'm gonna go ahead and not rib you guys about a known error that gives bad images to both cards.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a single issue with SD cards, and I don't think anybody's had issues with XQ. Like, I know people have had zero issues with XQD cards or the CF cards or that kind of shit.
Anything at some point. What do we all tell each other and everybody about not gear failure, but backup stuff? When someone's like, what's the best drive?
Dude.
I want to buy the best drive. I'm like, don't buy the best drive. Buy 5 of whatever the fuck you want.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Dude, we fuck with Ted about the 2 card slots. We used to shoot video. Now, video is different because you have multiple angles. When I started on Sony. Right, so like I've never had anything but Sony mirrorless, so I never had to like change to
I have
mirrorless.
a lot of video friends who love Sony.
Right, so like all we used to shoot on was fucking crop sensor 1 card slot cameras. That's all we for like 4 years.
But for video, that's all that was
angles.
available.
Right, that's the only thing that existed.
Right, a lot of DSLRs still don't dual record video.
Right,
most of them don't. I think.
Hey, let's go back to something. You brought up something really cool, and it's one of my favorite things to do, but a lot of creatives do not like it. But we talk about it a lot in the book club. I said creatives.
Are we going back to awards?
No. You should get a Fearless Award, though. It should be retroactive. The fact that you had Canon, loved Canon, but saw something else that worked and like doubled down on it and followed the numbers. It's something we talk about a lot. Like, almost having like no emotional ties to certain things we do in our businesses and things like that, just following the numbers and split testing things and seeing what works. It's really cool like that you did that with the camera. I love that.
I mean, it wasn't even intentional. I'm very, very lucky that Dave Shea handed me a camera that day.
Yeah.
But no, I have always been of the mind that I'm going to do look, in the end, and actually this was an issue for me at first when the Z6 came out and there was all that smack talk online. I hadn't even said anything actually, and I had people who were like, how dare you promote this camera, you're never going to shoot with it. I don't know, like people just freaking out on me personally as if I designed it in my kitchen.
Right. Wait, you didn't?
Wait, did you? Because that's impressive.
I thought you were here because of that.
I did. Why are you telling me?
I'm muting this. Hold on.
So I had a lot of people like, literally people who I thought were my friends, like screaming online about how terrible of a human being I was. I was like,
you piece of shit.
I had nothing to do with this. But like, when I say that it's really nice to work with this company, I mean it. Like, I spoke to them about it and I was like, hey guys, like I'm probably going to stick with my D850s because I want 2 card slots. And they were like, so do what you want. Like we make D850s, buy a D850. Like, we don't care what.
Well, that's kind of what I was asking is like, is that something that they consider? So, like, are we going to get a dual slot mirrorless? Like, is that something they give a shit about?
Are they listening? Yeah, I think they're listening. I think I don't for a second think that they're not listening to that kind of stuff. I do think like they still sell DSLRs that have 2 card slots. And so they're like, hey, these are basically the same camera with a couple of different features. Pick the one that makes you happy. Right. But, for all my bluster of I'm going to stick with D850s, I started taking the Z6 with me for portraits only. I'm like, I'm just going to shoot portraits with it. It's fine. Because I did like how sharp it was and how beautiful it was. And you guys shoot with Sony mirrorless. So mirrorless is just fun to shoot with.
Yeah, it's dope.
Different experience.
Yeah.
And so I started taking the Z6 so that I could shoot portraits, and then I started leaning on it. And so now I do shoot weddings with the Z6. They only have 1 card slot. Because when I say like you say like you look at the numbers and you go where it leads you. Yep. It led me to the Z. And
so I feel like the mirrorless.
Can I ask you one quick thing real quick?
No.
Yeah.
So one of the fun surprises I got from my Z6 was the 51.8.
I thought it was going to be the T-shirt.
No. I did an LBI session, like an engagement session at the Lighthouse, and I was looking at the photos at home when I got home. Didn't even realize it in camera at the moment, but when the sun was behind my lens, it makes these like 2 little burnt orange rings of lens flare. that I could not have done on purpose if I tried. Like, it was incredible to see, because my friend Jay Casario, who uses Leica lenses, is all big into the lens flares and how cool it is, and how most modern lenses don't do that. I don't know if you've seen that on yours or not, but I think that's one of the most fun things about that lens, is those fun little lens flares.
I haven't used the 58-1.8 that much, but there's an old 85. It's not an old 85-1.8 for DSLRs, and I have this one image where there's like a flare that's a full rainbow, and the couple's kissing underneath it.
That's sick.
That was just an in-camera flare, and I saw the rainbow, and I was like, "Go kiss under the rainbow!" Like, and we made it happen. But yeah, I mean, you get to know your gear, you can do all kinds of cool stuff.
It has to do with the coating, right? I'm pretty sure on new lenses, there's a certain coating that you don't get that, which you should. Get your J.J. Abrams on. I want all the flares.
That's right.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like when you start shooting on mirrorless, there's certain things in that ecosystem that you almost wish would be in a DSLR. Like if you're on a beach, that EVF where like you can be in bright sunlight and see exactly what it's gonna look like. That is so awesome. I love those features.
Also, just like image review is a different experience now. Like I don't chimp as much as I used to, just because I do recognize how much I'm missing photos if I chimp. But when you have the opportunity to chimp and it's like super bright out and you're like, I'm trying to look at this photo, but I can't see anything. But now you don't have to worry about it because you just put it up to your face and you're like, ah, perfect.
There is one struggle with that, and it's people always think you're taking their fucking picture while you're just looking at your last picture. It's like, what? And I'm like, no, I'm looking at other pictures. Leave me alone.
This isn't about you.
Get the fuck out of here, Kyle.
Way.
Yeah, it's a totally mirrorless is a different shooting experience, but it's really, really fun. I actually, like, when I first got it, I'm like, it feels like I'm cheating. Like, it feels like I'm not doing my job. But I feel like once you get past the headspace where you're like, why is this easy? You make it harder for yourself, because now you're like, well, this stuff is now the default. So now I can think about other things. I can think about my brain more. I can think about all this other cool stuff I want to do more.
It's so funny you say that, because like in the video world, we were for years, we manually focused everything because that's what you're supposed to do. And that's the professional way of doing it. And now Sony, their autofocus, like the AI in the camera, it does it so much faster and better than you ever could do it. Yeah. And it looks natural. And it's like, all right, well, I'm going to use this now. Like this tool gets out of my way. Like it makes my day easier.
And if you see somebody with a camera like one generation before ours with Sony or a different thing, they're like, fucking autofocus. They're like, what are you talking about? Are you an amateur? Like manual focus your shit. And we're like, no, it doesn't. Like, don't do that.
That's the thing. I think some people just don't like change, which is unfortunate because I think you just said it perfectly. It gets out of your way.
Yeah.
Right. So like the better tech you have. And that's why I was saying, like, when you talk to engineers and you're like, I don't want to insult these people. Like, I love my camera. But the more tech they give you, the more you're like, all right, well, you gave me this. So
what else can you give me?
You gave me that. You gave me that thing that nobody asked for instead of that thing I really want.
Well, that happens too. But
what the fuck am I talking about? I in the nuclear field work with engineers constantly. It's a different brain. They're different types of people. We always say like engineer brain. It's like a thing, but like they're focused on specs. They're focused on getting the most out of and fitting this technology into this little box.
Yeah.
And not the practical use, right? So I often talk to engineers about, hey, so this is, there's a difference between what you create and actually implementation. Right? So now we're gonna implement it and use the actual thing. I'm starting to go to like different phases. We go to implementation phase, but anyway, we're gonna implement the use of this thing, and it doesn't actually work like that, right? So you have to give them that information that you're giving them. So valuable. It's so insanely valuable that they're actually getting information of how this thing is actually used and stuff they might not have thought about, because they're really thinking about if I put this in, is it going to overheat? If I do this, and there is a part of engineer brain that goes, no, you can't use it like that. It's got to be done like this until they get that reality check.
It was one of the most amazing experiences of my life.
That's so awesome.
Also, just like to see how the things that they're thinking about that I'm not thinking about, but also them realizing that like something that, like for example, there's a lot of custom profiles you can use with the mirrorless, which are super helpful for content creators. But for me, and actually now they're useful for me too, because the more content that I'm creating for Instagram stories, like I'm not really putting in like post-processing effort for content and for Instagram stories, but I still want to shoot it with a good camera. But for my professional work, I'm not using that stuff. And they were like, you don't really care about it, do you? Like, you're doing all this post work, which means the color profile doesn't mean anything to you. And I was like, no, like, I mean, it's great for when I'm doing stories, but that conversation, and they're so smart. Like, it's just a really interesting experience.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Love it.
That's pretty cool.
Sorry, Ted, I totally interrupted you.
No, you're not. No, I don't need to say anything the whole time. We would love hearing everything from you. But the one thing I want to hear from you, so this must have been years ago, and this is something that we've talked about a lot, is automation. And I think it was years ago, you said something in one of the groups that like made a lot of sense, because we're always talking about how can we automate our business so that we spend less time working and, blah, blah, blah. And Charmi, I think you said like, well, if you're not going to automate everything in your business, you can also automate stuff in your life.
Yes,
like
that was
your
me.
chores, your groceries, your laundry, your lawn care, like things like that. So like, what is your system for that? Like, what do you think works good for you?
So I'm unemployed right now. So things changed a little bit.
Well, this is
you don't
asking, asshole.
It's
It's coronavirus, you douchebag.
So, but on that, let's pretend it's normal wedding season.
Yeah.
I have a housekeeper come to my house every morning at 7:00. Every morning at 7:00. So my kids, me and my husband get the kids ready, we get them fed, we get their lunches packed, we get them out the door, and then my husband runs to the train station because he works in New York City, and I get to work because I need to be done before the kids come home at 3:30. Because when the kids come home at 3:30, I am their chauffeur. So I need to start working right away, and I'm assuming I want to take a shower occasionally, and like the things my housekeeper can do in 1 hour take me 5 hours. Like, she makes all the beds, does all the laundry, does all the dishes, cleans all the floors, cleans all the counters, tidies up the entire dang house, like, and she's out of there in 55 minutes. And like, if dishes take me an hour, like,
right, me too.
It's not even clean. Like, it's not good. So for me, there was a period of my career where I was insistent that I edit every single photo myself. And that's how this started. It started with me saying like, well, I don't want to stop editing my photos, but what do I want to stop doing? Like, I don't want to do dishes. So I brought somebody in to do dishes. I don't want to make my bed. So I brought somebody in to make my bed. I hate doing laundry and I hate putting it away. And so now somebody else does that for me. I don't like grocery shopping, so usually we order in our groceries. I will automate or outsource anything I don't want to do, and I feel like that gives me not only time back for my business in between when my kids are at school, that gives me time back in my life where I feel like a lot of people think that if you're a photographer, when you're not shooting a wedding, you're eating cookies and watching TV.
Wait, you're not?
Don't give away the trade secrets.
No,
Hold on a second.
Now I am eating cookies.
I think I'm doing it wrong.
But I wasn't always, right? And so the more I can find ways, like, I don't calculate things in terms of like, okay, the housekeeper costs $30 an hour, right? But I don't think of it as giving her $30 for an hour of work. I think of it as like giving her $30 for 3 hours of my life back.
Yeah. I love that.
Like 100% accurate. That's what she does for my family. She gives my family 3 hours of me back. And that's
awesome.
Totally worth it.
Right. People look at that stuff and they're like, oh, that's too expensive, or I don't do this. Like, specifically for us, like, I have somebody come like once every 2 weeks to clean, but like most of the time, like the one thing that I was easily able to cut out was grocery shopping. Like, I haven't gone to a store in forever. You know, it's getting tougher with coronavirus to like schedule that stuff. So you got to be strategic. But, you know, I think Instacart's like $9 a month or $10 a month.
Yeah.
And it's like
$10 a month. Yeah.
Yeah. It's $10 a month. And then like, you know, there's a tip in there, but like, I don't have to drive to the store, go get all my stuff. And it like, it helps you be more organized, stuff like that. There's so many benefits to automating.
You'll also
some stuff like
save
that.
money. At least I will. When I walk around a food store, you always pick up extra stuff that you don't need.
Absolutely. And it makes it so easy to find deals. Like if you find stuff that's on sale, it's listed right there. You can see exactly what you want, and it makes it very simple.
Not a lot of impulse buying when you're scheduling
No.
your groceries.
I wonder if the mindset of people that give pushback about that is because I think it changes when you're an entrepreneur or you work for yourself, because your time is money. Whereas someone who just does like a 9 to 5 kind of thing, like
You mean where they get paid
oh,
by
that's a
the
waste
hour?
of money. I can do that. Well, no, like, no, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think the mindset changes where like, you know, someone who's an entrepreneur is like, hey, you know what? I don't want to do an hour of my lawn care. If I,
I think we see the world differently.
I
think it's a little bit different.
Maybe. I think you get pushback from people who are not in a situation to do that, so they want to find justification to say why you shouldn't. I don't know that it has.
I also see it from people who feel like, and I feel like I need control over my edit. That's sure. Like at this point now, I don't edit myself for the most part. I do edit every like 4th wedding myself, just because I feel like it's really important to review your own work. If you're not editing your own work occasionally, you may miss when you are starting to slip on a particular thing. Like seeing your own work and like having to sit with it makes you better. And so every couple weddings I do edit myself, but I send my wedding edits to Lavalu to do for me. And then I review them really quickly before I export them. But I think that like a lot of people feel like, oh, but this is like my art and this is my creativity. And that was true for me for a really, really long time. But now I believe that I'm such a consistent artist when it comes to the commercial craft of wedding photography. It's wedding photography. Like if there is one image, and not every single, let's face facts. If I'm delivering 1,200 images, 1,180 of them are standard wedding images. And maybe 20 of them are gorgeous, artistic, beautiful photo, and I'll edit those. But everything else is good, clean work, but not something that's like, not something I'm like, oh my God, I'm an artist and I need to be personally attached to these 1,200 photos.
I'm so happy you said that.
Wait,
that's something I feel like so many people need to hear. Go ahead, Mike. You're waving a fucking pencil around. Just say something, man. What are you doing? What are you fucking Henry Potter over there?
No, I think you hit on both sides of that, where like you could still outsource them, and if you do like to edit, I think it's JD that talks about this a lot. Like just edit the highlight reel.
Yeah.
But spend your time on that and don't rush and don't get stressed out. Like I think that's really cool.
I think it is incredibly important, like what you're talking about, though, to every once in a while just spot check yourself. Because I remember for the first year and a half that I shot wedding films with Mike, that I didn't edit a single thing. And then the first time I edited work, I was like, holy shit, that's what that fucking looks like? Yeah. Are you kidding me? Like, it just completely changed the way I shot, because like it is so important to just get in there and post and see what you can actually work with.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh no, this works. You can just do this. You can just do this. And then when you realize you can't just actually do that, you're like, oh fuck, never mind, forget that.
And I feel, I mean, more than ever now, I feel like wedding photography, as much as I love it, and I clearly love the craft, and I'm an ambassador for a major brand, it can't be the only thing in my life. It can't be the only source of income. And that's always been the case. I'm invested in my brother's restaurants. Honestly, that is, that's also suffering right now. And so I feel like everything is suffering now. I think what my brain has been doing this, like, what could I invest in that wouldn't suffer kind of thing?
Nothing.
Nothing. And I feel like nothing is the answer.
I looked at that with my dad's got a bunch of vacation rental things, and I was like, oh man, like as soon as this started happening, I was like, you know what? For my exit plan from my 9 to 5, right, to like go into full-time photography, it can't just be photography anymore. It's got to be real estate investment, something like that. And then all of the bookings started dropping off from the vacation rentals, and I was like, oh fuck.
I thought about that too. I have been looking and looking for an apartment. I don't want to do 16 separate doors of homes or condos or whatever. I had been looking for like an apartment building with a minimum of 16 doors, just because like that vacancy ratio makes sense. Can you imagine?
Talking.
I'm a nerd who really likes to talk about money.
Yeah.
But like, can you imagine right now if I was the single owner of a 16-door apartment building?
Yep.
And I had payments to make and nobody to pay their rent. Like a third of the country couldn't pay their rent, and it's understandable. And I would never. It's not in me to be one of those landlords who's like, your rent is due anyway. And so I think my strategy out of this, as much as I've been like, I need to diversify a little more, is just to save more. But originally, the reason I started outsourcing is because I was like, well, I want to do other things in my life. But like, maybe I don't. Maybe I just want to save money and I want to relax, like hang out with my kids and live life. And maybe I don't need to maybe every single minute I buy back for myself doesn't have to be a productive minute.
Right.
Hey, question. Did that thought just start during all of this since you've been home so much, or was it before that? Because I am the same exact way now, where like I never used to take time off ever and would work around the clock and wanted to find more time. Now that I'm home and building an urban garden, yeah, I brought it back to the episode. Who cares?
Son of a bitch.
I want more free time now, and not so much just for business. This is fun. Like I'm having fun with the kids and doing all that stuff.
I sat out on the back porch today with my 2 youngest boys and my oldest, like running around, and I had the 2 youngest boys on the hammock, like swing with me, and we were just like chilling there listening to music, and I was like,
it's fun.
This is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
This is the best.
I feel really like I should be careful the way I talk about it, because there are people out there who can't pay their rent, and for them, this is no kind of blessing ever in any way at all. And there is no silver lining to find. It just fucking sucks.
Right.
But for me, in the situation that I'm in and having prepared the way I've prepared, also being lucky and having a husband who is still working. He just started a new job 3 days before the lockdown. So let me tell you, I was a little stressed out, and I still am. But I'm lucky. We have one working spouse in this house. I do feel like the silver lining is that like I am getting the break that I have set. Last year I spent 120 nights in hotels.
Oh wow. Between
traveling to teach at conferences or at camera shops, or I had a destination wedding in New Zealand. It's just
fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was great. But also any wedding that I shoot, even if it's like 15 minutes, it was fucking awesome. But let me tell you, it was also natural disaster central, and I'll tell you about that another time.
Oh
but,
my God.
But like every wedding that I shoot, if it's more than 30 minutes away from my house, they have to get me a hotel room for Friday and Saturday, because these weddings are like
really
19 hours long, and I have to wake up at 5:30 a.m. and I don't want to drive to your hotel at 3:30 in the morning. It's not going to happen. So I end up at hotels so much, and I'm always saying to everybody like, oh, I can't wait until I have some downtime. And then my downtime's like 3 weeks in January, and like I can't take my kids anywhere. And like I'm trying to be. Have you guys ever heard of some guy who, my husband always talks about him and I don't know his name, but like he always takes his kids out, whether it's like good weather or bad weather. He takes his kids out to play for an hour period, because he doesn't want his kids to think of snow or rain or whatever as something to like ruin their mood. Like he doesn't want it.
That's cool.
Yeah, he doesn't want it to be attached to
That's
like
fucking awesome.
How they feel.
I feel like he doesn't have kids, but you know who talks about that a lot? Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Does he? So it wasn't him, but like that same idea that like he doesn't want his kids to ever feel like what's happening outside of their house should affect what they feel inside. So every day for an hour.
Really interesting.
In any weather situation, if it's raining, it's raining. They put on raincoats, boots, and they go outside and play for an hour. And he goes with them. And I don't know. I'm learning to like enjoy all this stuff. I'm not like that guy. Yeah. And I'm now learning to make the most of being home at all different times. I'm going to be home all summer. I think we're going to be home all summer.
Right.
And
Wait, I'm going to walk on eggshells on this one real quick.
No, you're not.
Wait, no,
say
I am.
Say it. Fucking say it, bro. Shout it.
It has kind of to do with what you're saying, but like we see a lot of friends post that like, oh, my kids are depressed. They're this. They're really stressing out from this whole situation.
My kids think this is fucking awesome.
Well, that's what I was going to get at. And it was like, I was like, man, we do so much to shield them right now from like what's going on. And they think like this is the coolest. Like this is just months of snow days. Like we're doing so much fun stuff. And it's like, you got to really be careful not to, because we're all stressed, right? I know we can lie about it, but you got to try to not, pour that onto them, which I think a lot of people probably
I think
do,
there's
such
thing as too much. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I like to be honest with my children. I'm like, oh, so
nah, fuck that.
But this is
nope.
not-
You know what I was just doing to your mother in the other room, son? No, that's not going to work. It's not going to fucking work.
There's a difference between being
we went there.
Kids. Like my kids know that COVID is happening, right?
Right.
There's a difference between being honest with your kids and like burdening them with your weight and like they don't need any of that. My kids, yeah, they're definitely having the time of their lives. They love working in the garden. They are sad. Are they sad about certain things? When they realize they haven't seen their grandparents and they probably aren't going to see them for a while, that bums them out.
Right.
And when they see that they can't see their cousins who they love, that bums them out. But, you know, we try to keep them busy and like, and I'm not trying to act like I spend 24/7 entertaining.
No, we get it.
Let me tell you, I don't.
No, same.
But I don't want to, this to them, I hope, I said this in a clip on Instagram. I hope that like 20 years from now, when our kids all talk to each other about this, they're like thinking of it as this like really cool magical time. I don't want them to feel this stress. Like 9/11, now we're living this. I don't want them to live it like that.
Do you ever say like anything shitty about the blizzard of 1996?
Right.
I fucking don't. I don't have anything bad.
I thought it was awesome. I
fucking dope.
Snow coming up and like taking a cup and like opening.
Dude, I built a fucking igloo in New Jersey. It was fucking awesome.
I was eating snow like for a
no,
week.
dude. I look at it like this, and I like once or twice a year, my wife and I talk about this thing we call like living simple. Like every once in a while, we're like, hey, what if we got like worked to get rid of as much as possible, and we move somewhere cheap, and we open up like a fucking smoothie shop or something small, and just like
mustache?
What's that?
Mr. Money Mustache.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
Oh, I suck apparently. Fuck me then.
So I what you just said, I ask my husband all the time why we can't do that, and his answer is my job doesn't exist outside of New York City.
Right. That's my thing though. Like I work in an industry like that where there's only certain places you can go to work, and I make a solid income from my career that I've built, and it's awesome.
Way to
Why do I give a fuck about that? Because once or twice a year.
Why don't we just live on less? And
exactly. I say once or twice a year, why don't we just go move into a fucking 3-bedroom apartment with the kids, have less, do less, and just enjoy the time together?
You should move to New Zealand, by the way. It's
the
happiest place
Didn't you just say natural disaster central? Yeah, no fucking thanks.
You're sending mixed signals here.
What's
Maybe she doesn't like you. She's like, go move by the volcano.
Me then. No, yeah, listen, fuck you too, Charmi.
It was just rain. Okay, you can get over it. The guy who takes his kid out every day will teach you how to get over it.
It's fine. It's all good.
So I'm just curious, like you said you do like the all day, 19-hour Indian weddings. Like how many people do you bring with you to a wedding?
Good question.
So I always have a second shooter, and then I have my assistant who I call a lighting technician because that's really what they're there for. They're there to handle all the lighting, setup, breakdown, whatever. Also to keep me alive. And the three of us is good enough. But what I do, I'm not with the couple from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. I'm with the couple from like 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. and then again from 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. So there is a 3 to 4 hour break almost always. I always, like, if my room doesn't have enough room, like if there's no couch or whatever, I'll get another room. If I can, I make sure that all my staff can sleep if they want to. So that's what we do. We nap.
Wait, why is there such a big gap?
So the ceremony, Indian weddings are often they're dictated by auspicious times of the day. Okay. And the auspicious time of day is generally like, call me cynical, but it's always at the same time, early in the morning. And I just think the priest wants to like get things done and go home. Anyway, that's just me being cynical, but there's multiple auspicious times a day, but almost always people choose the first one because the ceremony itself is like 2+ hours. Wow. And so if you're talking like, if you think about it, even if they did like ceremony directly into reception, it would be so long that it would be tiring, I think. So because the barat itself, like when he comes in on the horse,
my favorite part.
So fucking awesome.
That's an hour. And then the ceremony is 2 hours. And then you need time to do portraits with every single guest in attendance. And so it's just so much time that like people need a break. Also, traditionally, Indian brides and guests and everybody, they don't wear the same clothes to the ceremony that they wear to the reception. The ceremony is traditional and the reception is fun AF. And so that it takes time to do that flip, because they're going from something traditional to something a little more relaxed and fun. So there ends up always being like a big giant gap. And so, yeah, I mean, so what I do is, do you guys know that I cull same day?
We do now.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, so I cull the same day as I shoot a wedding, no matter what. Like,
That's awesome.
No matter what, no excuses, period, end of story. It's a work day. I'm away from my kids. I want it to be done before I get back to my kids. I want it to be uploaded to Lavalu because then I'm just like, I'm done. I'm moving on with my life. So, and even if I'm going to edit it, I want to be able to edit it first thing Monday morning. And I don't want to do anything on Sunday. So during the 4-hour break, I back up all my photos immediately. XQD cards are super stupid fast. And so I can back up all 4 cards, like 2 from me and 2 from the second shooter in like 30 minutes max. And then it takes me less than an hour to go through 5,000-6,000 photos because during all of that, Barath, ceremony, portraits, whatever, we probably shot that much in the morning. And then I take a nap with Chipotle.
Chipotle is super important.
Yeah, Chipotle is super
That's
important.
pretty cool.
That's the secret sauce.
I've only done a couple Indian weddings, and they were like some of the most fun I've ever had. Like, it was a blast.
Indian weddings are super, super fun, but if you're going to survive, I know people who don't take this break that I take. They like follow the bride and groom around when they're doing nothing. Like, they'll go with them to their room and sit there for 4 hours shooting them. And I don't know if they think they're shooting fearless work and they're just going to get awards out of it. And I don't.
I can't remember if there was a break in ours. I think there was.
The
most fascinating thing to me was they did family photos and they gave people numbers, like kind of like a ticket at the deli counter. Like everybody got a number because there was 350 people there.
Yeah.
Holy
really cool.
shit.
Well,
That's crazy.
That was where I met Bhavin. That's where I met Bhavin, Tommy.
I work with my clients to make that list and make sure everyone gets numbers, and I like pre-plan it with them so I control the group sizes, because every now and then a client will get it in their head, we're just going to do like 10, 50 people photos, so it'll go really fast. And I'm like, motherfucker, that ain't going fast. Like, that's not the thing. That is way longer than if we just split it up.
Right.
So
yeah,
I make sure, and not only that, but like, I don't like moving chairs on and off and on and off. And so I'll look at their list and make sure that we're like building instead. We'll do small groups first, big groups at the end. So then it's not like, oh, we did a group of 4, group of 4, group of 4, group of 50, group of 4 again. Like, I don't want to do chairs up, chairs down 500 times. I would say I control a lot at the weddings I shoot. Like, I control the stuff that isn't changing like their wedding plans. I'm just making it more efficient. They don't know how to make it efficient. They haven't planned a wedding before. They don't do this stuff like, so, but I control a lot of that stuff. So I think that's one of the reasons that I take that break and like, because I can.
Right.
Oh, I have another question for you too. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tommy. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. The one that Mike and I did at what was it? The Please Touch Museum? Yeah, it was super awesome. I felt like was that a different situation? You said the ceremony was like 30 minutes.
So it was an Indian fusion wedding. That's why it was a little trimmed down.
Makes sense. Yeah, you know what's crazy? I think it's different for video specifically because a lot of times you can't not be standing, you can't like whatever, but like when I hear full Catholic mass, I want to blow my brains out. I know that's like an unpopular opinion. I don't mean that. I really don't mean it in a bad way, but like when I know I have to stand for a video for an hour and a half, I'm like, oh fuck, this is gonna be awful.
You can recite those masses now.
Jesus Christ.
Literally.
I don't remember that either, but can I be honest? Like, after shooting so many Indian weddings, non-Indian weddings feel kind of like a vacation. Like, I'm not even
right. That's like photo weddings instead of doing video. And I don't mean that to like downplay anything. It's just I don't have to worry about audio. I don't have to bring a fucking tripod. This is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, Ted, did you have another question?
So yeah, I have several, but yeah, so I'll go back to the one. On your website, there's like some incredible, amazing close-ups of people. Do you have Lavalu edit those too, or do you do those ones?
Everything on the website I edited.
Okay.
Or if Lavalu edited, yeah, no.
Cool.
Website I would have edited. Yeah.
Nice.
But if you look through a gallery of the wedding that image is from, and you saw Lavalu's edits, you wouldn't really be able to tell the difference between the ones I did and the they did.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to start outsourcing your editing? Was it like a thing you did pretty recently? Yeah, I've been fucking. So like I changed modified my prices to fit it in, and I'm like, I'm still like nervous about it.
No, so you got to find the right company. I went through a lot of companies before the Mike at Lavalu is amazing in that like he wants to get it right and he wants to talk to you about like tell me what's missing, like tell me what's and the thing about outsourcing that you have to understand is, and I didn't understand it maybe, and it took me time to get there. You have to be willing to give them a solid critique back. Like everything is too green, everything is too contrasty. Like this is not. So what I did for the first like 5 weddings that I sent them is I edited 100 photos. Like I edited something in every lighting situation, or where I edited a bunch of things, and I was like, just match what I edited.
Right.
Like, don't do anything else. And so the first wedding was like perfect, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. And then the second wedding, I sent it, I got it back, and I did the same thing. I edited 100, I sent it back. The second wedding, I was like, shit, this is why I never outsource. Like it wasn't bad. It was 90% of the way, but it wasn't enough. I wanted it to be like 95% of the way there.
Right.
So I didn't want to send it back, but Mike was like, send it back. Like you need to I know you feel bad sending it back, but send it back. Instead of you editing it and fixing it, send it back, tell me what's wrong, and they'll fix it. And so we went through that process through the first like 5-6 weddings. Now I don't send samples. They'll send me samples. And so I have samples to approve, but now I don't edit any unless I wanted to edit some of my favorites. I'll usually
That's awesome.
on the tail end instead. But now they get me. I feel like at the beginning of this season, and by this season I mean 2021,
Wow.
Yikes.
they may have forgotten my style, and so we might have to do that over again a little bit.
Right.
But it's okay because it's so worth it.
Well, that's the thing that always holds me back.
What?
Yeah, what's the name of that company? Do you want people to know about that? It's,
yeah. Lavalu, Lavalu, Lavalu.
It's the first time I've heard of it. That's awesome.
Mike Connell is the owner, and they are amazing. Like,
yeah, we'll definitely shout them out in the group and stuff like that.
That's funny that you mentioned that because there's another thing I want to ask you about. You said you did and feel free to tell me to go fuck myself on this, but you mentioned
Ted's looking up Lavalu right now. I can see it in his eyes.
I was actually checking the spelling because I spelled it wrong when I took the notes earlier.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, Ted's a big, firm believer of the case method, the copy and steal everything. He's into it. He's fucking super into it.
Okay.
No, the boot camp you talked about earlier, like you mentioned, I was like, that was super fucking interesting. Where they like I kind of want to hear more about it.
Well, I didn't name it because it doesn't exist anymore.
That's okay. All right, that's okay.
But no, I'll tell you. So it used to be called Foundation Workshop. It was actually created by the person who created Fearless.
Oh wow, no shit.
No way.
Yeah, and Foundation Workshop was, I mean, I would tell you, like, when I went there and when I left there, I was like, I'm shooting the same. Nothing has changed. And then when I went into my wedding season, I was like, after like 3 weddings, I was like, oh my God, everything has changed.
Wow.
The way that I was thinking about shooting had changed. And the way that I thought about culling had changed. Like I became a ruthless monster after, like when I say I can cull 10,000 photos in like an hour, it's because I'm ruthless. Like I don't have any personal feelings about something I cut. I'm like, it's bad, it gets cut, period, bye. Like it changed the way that I think about things and it made me better that way. So it doesn't exist anymore. However, there are a couple. I'm teaching a version of that same concept.
Nice.
It's supposed to be in January. The person running it is a guy named Tashorn Jackson. I don't remember what the name of it is, but he's organizing it in Florida in January of this year, of next year. We'll see if it's delayed or anything. But the idea is the students that buy in, and I don't remember what the cost is going to be, but the students that buy in, you'll have a bunch of instructors and we'll do a business day at the end. But the first 2 days are going to be like, here's your assignment. You are going to a barbershop. You are going to a baker. You're going to a nursing home. Like you're going to the rodeo. Like you're not going to the rodeo in Florida, but It's
Why
full.
not?
There's probably crazier shit to find. So
Meth head crocodiles.
there's gonna be a man eating someone's face. Like you'll find it.
For sure.
Where
Bad
does
salts. Bad
Carol
salts it is.
Baskin live?
Black and white,
Tampa.
green. That's a fearless award right there.
Done.
Man
So-
eating face.
So like everyone who signs up will get an assignment, and then at the end of every day you'll get critiqued, because that's what we used to do. Like I went to that nursing home day one. At the end of the night, you critique your photos. Like it is such a taxing experience. You basically don't sleep. You just shoot, critique, and then at the end they show you a slideshow of your 10 best images, and they edited them for you. You didn't even edit them, and you see them and you're like, oh my God, like I shot that story. And it's amazing. And the fact that you're a wedding photographer and they take you completely out of weddings, and you have what, 20 hours between 2 days to produce 8 to 10 amazing images. Right. And like, it just forces you to think about things differently.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds great.
So
That
as
sounds
soon as
really
I
cool.
remember what the other one's called, I'll share it with you guys. I'll send it to you.
I'm super into it. I want to do it.
I would say it completely changed my shooting, and I was really, really sad when they stopped having it.
You had
Yeah.
me at Florida. I'm down.
Right?
Florida in January, it's like good. I think
Yeah.
outside of
One
Orlando.
time I go.
to go to Disney.
You can stop selling right now. We're there.
We have a wedding in February in Florida, actually.
Maybe.
Maybe.
maybe. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Oh man.
Somebody
It's super
called me
fucking
for a wedding in Cancun in January, and I seriously, when I get these inquiries now, I'm like, are you sure? Like,
Yeah.
Pretty sure there won't be any fucking planes at that point.
I just had someone inquire today for August, and I was like, probably
That's
not.
dicey.
That's close.
Yep.
No, at this point, I don't want to take people's money for dates that I'm like, oh.
I just got one rescheduled from May to July. I'm like,
I just had, and I feel so bad for
I'm
him.
down for it. I'm second shooting. I don't want to say anything bad about, like, you know, I'm
Wait, hang
excited
on.
to shoot it.
I have to. It's my turn to one up you on this.
No,
one.
do it. Do
I
it.
just had
do
my
it, do
first,
it.
and I'm super sad. Double reschedule, where their rescheduled
Aw.
date is now postponed to.
You
That's
know
fucked
what
up.
I worry about, and this is one of the reasons, like, you know, I see a lot of photographers being like, I'm only going to let them reschedule for the next 6 months. And I'm like, okay, that's a cute idea, but
Whatever, douchebag.
I don't understand that at all.
I just
It's
feel
okay.
I
like
just don't get that.
Mike's going, it's okay.
I just feel like if you're not being realistic with yourself, like if you don't let them reschedule further out, if you are the person who forces them to reschedule within 6 months, and then they have to postpone again, they're definitely going to either want their money back or to be done with you or to just cancel the wedding, because nobody wants to reschedule twice, right?
Yeah.
So I am happy to let people reschedule for next year. Like,
So
I think
we-
it's a
we
thing
talk about-
creatives don't think about, or maybe they do, or maybe they never had to think about, but
Yeah.
it's the weight of your decisions and what you're doing. Like you can say like, no, I want this. Well, are you really willing to stake everything on that? Right.
Wait, but
Wait, what?
well, yeah, I didn't expect you guys to
There's
be
no
quiet. Okay.
It's okay.
No, we talk about this a lot where it's like everybody preaches that they give the best client experience, right? They type that shit all day on Facebook. And as soon as it's tested, we see this over and over and over. And it's like, come on, man, just deliver. Like, this is the
Right.
time to deliver.
Eh,
and I think I actually know of a photographer who's charging fees for every change. She's like, my contract says I charge fees. And I'm like, okay, but like.
yeah, but are you a human being, you fucking animal? I'm sorry, I don't mean to say it that way.
Well,
I guess other people, there was a woman who like reamed me out because I was like, no, I'm not just refunding everybody's money. That's not realistic either. I'm not filing for bankruptcy
right.
this week. Like, do I have enough money to refund everyone? Probably, but like, I don't want to. Like,
It's
I
not
want to
your
have
fault.
right. I want to have a functioning business when they're all getting married again.
Within
know,
reason.
Right. Like for me, being compassionate towards them is like being flexible and making sure they get value for their money. So like, fine, you want to cancel your wedding. You have this credit with me and you want to do photos with your family. You want to go have a baby and take pictures later? We'll do that. That's fine. But like, what I'm not going to do is make it more difficult for them to reschedule because then I really look like the asshole.
Yeah.
And they're not.
Chris Smith wrote the conversion code. He has nothing to do with weddings, and he fucking said that. He goes, I would hope in all this you're like promoting like, hey, I'm sorry you have to go through this. This is supposed to be the most amazing day of your life. He fucking gets it, and he has nothing to do with the wedding industry. He, like that should tell you something, right? That should tell you something about being a business.
I also want to make them, the reality is if you're saying like, I want them to have a great experience, like I've been ahead of all this with my clients. I make sure I call them, get on the phone with them, and I'm talking through the options constantly. They know that I'm here for them. I do have a client that's not going to be able to rebook. She knows that she doesn't get her deposit back, but she made that decision after speaking to me several times. Like she made a calculated decision that like there's other things that are more important, and that's okay. That's she made a decision, and I respect her decision. But I think that God, I was going somewhere with that.
You were. Keep going. We'll get there.
What did you just say? He said
client experience.
Oh, so I'm making. Some of the venues are forcing people to do like Tuesdays or Mondays or Thursdays or whatever,
Just
and
ridiculous.
That sucks. But I want them, if that's the case, I want them to feel good about it. And the truth is, it's beneficial to me if that does happen. And so I told all of my clients, I'm like, look, if your venue forces you to have a Monday or Tuesday or Thursday, or if you choose to have a Monday or Tuesday or Thursday, if you reschedule, I'm gonna gift you an album. Like I'll gift you a book. Like
That's cool.
Oh, that's nice.
So
That's cool.
And I feel like that's also more, it's more helpful to them in their decision making than like, I'm going to fine you if you pick a prime Saturday.
Fine.
Right. Yeah. It's fucking crazy.
You know,
and you know,
is?
people get stuck on their contracts, right? And it's something like we talk about, I talk about my other industry all the time, right? Because we deal with processes and procedures all the time. The procedure says this, and I always call it, what's the word I'm looking for? Not realistic compliance, but like, you know, what's going to be realistic for your clients? It's, you know, what's going to work for you? Reasonable compliance. That's what I call it.
Not the spirit of the law.
Right.
The letter of the law.
What's reasonable? So reasonably comply with your contract. If your contract says something that in this crazy ass situation doesn't make sense or would be really bad, don't do it.
Yeah. Like when you wrote about reschedule fees, you know, you didn't write it about this. You know, you wrote it about when they wanted to delay their wedding for no real reason. Like,
yeah,
you didn't write it about this.
Right.
You know what? I think the truth, though, is, and I think this happens with a lot of creatives, is they've already spent most of that money. So, like, the ones, even when they're wrong, like, not the deposit. Like, I know people that have, like, the whole wedding's paid, and, like, they're going to end up going to court because they're keeping the money.
Yeah, you can't keep the whole wedding. That's not going to.
I think they know that, and I honestly think, because most people don't have a system in place for this stuff, and I'm not saying that's good or bad. That's bad. They spent it already, like, and they don't have it.
And those people need to have in their contract that refunds could take up to 180 days to process.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's something I've talked about. Even if that's not the situation, you never know what the fuck could happen in your life that you might absolutely need to pull that money, right? Like something like this. But you need to give yourself that time.
I was thinking I might write that in just because I've always thought, like, hey, if I die, it'll be simple because I have a life insurance policy and my husband will just use it to pay everyone out, right?
Right.
But he's not going to do it overnight. And so it might be good to have it in there that, like,
that's a really good point.
I think ours says
might take
90 days
long to process it. So sure, in these situations, you might get your money back, but in the event that I am going to give you a refund, it could take this long to process it.
Right.
Really good point.
I think what you said was so important that you said, like, the difference of someone finding someone for having a prime date taken up versus you giving them an album for doing a Tuesday. Like, the difference of customer service level is huge in that. And one of the things I think is also important, like, I don't know what everyone else's shooting style is like in the wedding world. For mine, it really depends on my personal connection with the couple. And if they hate me because I was a jerk to them with this whole process, like, I'm not going to be able to take good photos of them, and they're going to have a horrible day because they know this guy, the photographer, is like jerking them around with their contract and forcing them to do stuff they don't want to do. Like,
right?
No one's going to have a good time with that. No one's going to have fun. And in the worst case scenario, there's some sort of lawsuit, right? Like, you really never know what's going to happen. And that's why I've always taken different roads with it. Like, just treat people like humans, you know?
I think people are so scared, like, and they say they're not, and it shows through in these ways where, like, they'll say, like, I'm not giving away my prime 2021 dates. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
Keep the damn dates.
yeah.
Well, it's like the times you see somebody say, like, hey, I have a bride or groom that's, struggling with a certain medical issue. Now the wedding's canceled and they're asking for the money back. Well, what should I do? And I go, like, give them the fucking money back. Well,
Yeah.
I got to put food on the table for my family. I'm like, well, here's the thing, right? So before you get all like that with me, let's say if one deposit's going to ruin your fucking business, you got other problems, right?
Yeah.
But how about be a fucking human being?
The reason this is different from, in my opinion, with retainers is that it's not one wedding. It's like a season.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, absolutely. This is different, right?
Of weddings, that's not, that you're just,
Right.
Yeah.
and this is the thing I've been talking to brides about, because and I tell them, I'm like, I am on your side, but when they like vent about a venue, I'm like, just in case this helps you approach them differently, I'm like, I don't know if it's helpful to you, but I'm just going to give you this information. Like, think about how the venues, like everything we talked about earlier, how it's harder for venues because they have a different cash flow issue and they have a different startup cost. Like, we don't really have a startup cost. When it's time to go back to work, we already own a year and we just go back to work.
You got to charge those camera batteries though. That's electricity. That shit costs money.
Well, if we're splitting hairs.
But
that's like $5.
Venue startup costs are like completely different, and so for them it's a different thing. And I think it actually has helped some brides,
I think so,
like talk to the venue in a different way, and so like they've benefited from, I feel like from a bride perspective too, when you're talking to your vendors, if you're like yelling at them, they're less likely to be. And I think if everyone just shows a little grace for each other, it'll be an easier situation. And so I'm really lucky that I have that kind of relationship with my brides. I do think I'm at the point in my career where, like, what you said about, like, we have personal relationships with our clients, and like that's part of how we shoot, whether we find like them and find them interesting and whatever. And now I'm at a place actually where I won't even book clients if I feel like
don't like them.
Like, if we're not a good fit, if we didn't click on the phone.
You know what's happening with the venues too that a lot of people aren't talking about, or they're at least thinking isn't true? We were a local venue chain, not a chain, that's the wrong word. We have a group by us, awesome venues. They just sent out emails to all their couples that are getting married in the summer. And they said, look, we think you should all postpone, like, because we're almost full for 2021. So if you don't postpone, you're getting married in 2022 if you don't want a weekday wedding. Yeah, or on a Tuesday. And it was like, a lot of people, maybe they think they're full of shit, but I think a lot of venues are filling up fast.
Yeah, I think they are. We do. There is one venue that, like, a month ago told my bride the only Saturday they had open was September 21st. And then I'm hearing from new brides who are booking me for like June 19th of next year. Oh, we just booked our venue this week. And I'm like,
really?
I thought your venue was full till September 21st, 2021.
Right.
Is that the venue though? Or do you think sometimes that's the couple saying like, oh, they only have this date available?
No, I think it was the venue in this case. She was like, so this particular venue, and I think this is a bad business move, but that's their prerogative. They told the bride, you can reschedule, but we don't have any Saturdays available till September 20th. And you can have a Saturday after September 20th of 2021. Her wedding is supposed to be July 11th. Otherwise, we don't have any Fridays either. I just don't think it could even possibly be true that this venue is booked on every Friday and Saturday until September of next year. Like, no matter how busy you are,
you're like, not even in January? Come on. Yeah,
it's funny because, like, if you, I don't know if you do bridal shows or any of that kind of stuff, like some of the trends we started to see at like Philly Bridal Show and stuff like that is people are booking in shorter term, not longer.
Right.
Like, they're starting to go down to like 6 months to a year to book their venues and book their vendors and shit like that.
And they're not giving her like a Friday option. If they give her a Friday option, I think she would take it. They're saying, so that's actually not the only problem. The problem is she gave them her deposit and she gave them the first payment. So now she's given them half of what she owes them. And their inflexibility, they're like, you can have it on a Tuesday. Tuesday is not like a Friday is one thing. A Tuesday is a whole other thing.
She could be like, sure, I'll do it Tuesday, but that means we're full done. Like I paid you everything you need.
Right. And
That's it.
What they told her is like, if you want that Saturday, it's 20% more than your current contract.
I have someone that just had to do that. They had to pay an extra $20,000.
Is it the same venue?
No, different venue.
How do you know?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh.
I see a lot of cool things. We call it actually we're friends with Jen Ludwig, and I think she uses the phrase weird light.
Yes, I use the phrase weird light too.
Like I see a lot of your photos with this really weird light, and I love that. But there's a lot of other photos where everything's really clean, sharp contrast, like really bright. Like, do you use a lot of off-camera lighting for your portraits?
Yeah. So for me, like the primary goal for everything is kind of preserving ambiance. I see that, but then I also am like trying to hide like shitty parking lots from my photos. So obviously there's an element of like making the best of what I have available. But at the same time, like I'm always trying to preserve ambiance. So like I have these clients who are spending $1 gazillion on their reception rooms and lighting. And every now and then I'll see somebody shoot an Indian wedding. And I can tell you what color the wallpaper is. And I'm like, I should not be able to tell what color the wallpaper was in that room. Like it was a dark, beautifully lit, romantic, candles everywhere kind of room. It should look like that in the photos. Like you can light your subject without overlighting your room. And so from the beginning, even before I knew exactly technically how to control light, I've been really obsessed with the idea of controlling light because I feel that way about preserving ambiance. Like if your clients have created this club atmosphere, then you should capture it as a clubby atmosphere. That's my take. It doesn't have to be a very safe. But so for that reason, whatever I need to preserve whatever ambiance I'm shooting for, I'll use it. But yeah, for that reason, I do end up using a lot of off-camera flash. I use a lot of continuous light too. My ceremonies are 100% continuous light if they're inside.
Really?
100%.
Oh, really?
What do you use for that?
I currently use 2 Yongnuo 900s.
Oh, sweet.
And I put them on a
Light stand?
Nope. Because I don't like light stands. I don't want to see them, right? So
Brackets.
I have this four pillar thing. Super clamp.
Okay.
Super nice.
Right? So I'll attach it to a super clamp with a rolling head, and then I'll clamp it into the structure. If there's nowhere to clamp it, I will bungee something to clamp it to.
That's what I was going to ask you about.
Dude, I love that you continuously light the ceremony. Now I want to shoot
awesome.
video alongside.
We have to talk about this a lot. So me and Mike have we've tried to brainstorm ideas because I use off-camera lights for my receptions 100% of the time. It's my look, my style. I wouldn't really change that. But I hate the light stands in my photos. I will avoid them at all costs to be in my photos. And so I always have one by the DJ booth because I try to put them out of my photos too. I never have them in my photos.
Yeah.
But there's always another one on the opposite side of the room, which during toasts and speeches, it's like right freaking there. So tell me like your process. So if you use these super clamps, where do you put them? Do you bring a ladder with you? Like have venues given you pushback on it? Like what's the deal with that?
So the super clamps are usually for the ceremony. So I clamp them on the inside. I will use light stands if I'm desperate and it's like open and there's no front pillars, because video lights are clearly not going to reach from the back of the room all the way forward. So they need to be close. Good video lights, the kind I like, not the kind you like.
Oh, fucking burn.
I saw
No, wait, have you seen
the
the new Godox lights? Have you seen these?
Am I
These
gonna
are
like them?
amazing.
Yeah.
So Tommy and I used one and we shot it at least 200 feet and we hit something with it.
Okay.
Like they're
I'm
amazing.
willing to test.
Blah, 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 blah.
So, but like if you have 4 pillars, you also can't put it out there because you're going to see these weird ass shadows and I don't want that. So do venues give me pushback? Literally never. Maybe because I am the strongest personality on earth and nobody wants to talk to me.
So where
I
do you
can
put
fucking
them?
vouch for that. No, I'm kidding.
Wait, where do you put them?
So I put them on the inside. Like if you had a huppah, for example, right?
Uh-huh.
If you put them on the inside corners of the front 2 pillars and pointed them down kind of crossed, that's kind of what I'm doing.
Okay.
Now, for the reception, I'll put them on a stand if I have to, but frankly, just like you don't like light stands, I don't like light stands. And so my assistant, whether we decide to do a continuous light or a flash, it's my assistant's job to make sure that they are not manning the light, but always paying attention to it. Because if I want them to get it the fuck out of my way, it has to happen in 5 seconds or I'll freak out. Like, it's not cute. I always tell my assistants, I'm like, this is not personal. I swear to God, I love you very much. But when we're working, we're working. And if you're not paying attention, I'm going to bug the fuck out. So they're prepared for that.
And you have them just move the stand out of the way of the shot and then move it back, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you ever find ways to get I would love if I was like Spider-Man and I could just like web a flash up into the ceiling, so I never had to use a stand.
It depends on like what structure is there, right? I've done it for like when I have a hanging structure over the dance floor, you can just clip something to it. That's easy.
That's nice. Well, that's what I was gonna ask. You probably get those a lot. We do not. We usually have a lot of ballrooms, a lot of yacht clubs and golf clubs and stuff like that.
Have you tried the suction cups, like the super suction cups?
I have not. No, we know someone who uses those. How do you like them?
I like them a lot.
Okay.
But they may damage things. So.
Do you use them on? Do they work on things other than glass?
Yeah. So I've suction cupped to a wall before, like a painted wall.
Okay.
But the thing about a painted wall is you might fuck it up.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't want to do that.
Keep that in mind.
Don't want to go down there.
No.
Don't want to go down there.
Deal with that. But otherwise, I always keep 4 bungee cords in my bag. Also, because I'll bungee to anything. Like, I'd rather attach this. I will Velcro that shit to something if I can find a way to make it work. Like, I keep all this stuff in my trunk just in case. There's Velcro, there's bungees, there's the suction cups, there's the super clamps. Like, if I can find a way not to use a light stand for me and for the videographer and for the guests, then I'd love to. I fucking hate light stands.
Yeah, they're the fucking worst.
Yeah. So,
okay, cool.
I am never going to stop shooting the way I shoot. And that means that sometimes I get really close and I'm okay with that. But if I don't have to add to my obtrusions with light stands and whatnot, and not only that, like ceremony, one of the reasons I do continuous, I'm like playing with Legos and talking to you guys.
That's cool. Did you watch Lego Masters yesterday?
I did. The finale.
Yes.
I did watch it.
This is great.
So one of the reasons that I use continuous light is I don't want during the ceremony to be a distraction. Like, it's a 3-hour ceremony and I'm going to have a flash going off every 3 seconds. One, I'm going to want to kill myself. But second, also the videographer's going to murder my ass. And like, the videographers I work with are charging $15,000 for the day. Like,
Oh, I was going to ask about that.
It makes sense. For me, if the client is spending as much money on video as they're spending on me, I need to be respectful and we need to find a way to make everybody happy. Like, I need to get what I need to get, so I'm not going to not use flash at the reception.
Right.
But if there are any situations in which I can avoid it, I would it.
Yeah, we try to do that too. Like, me and Mike and Tommy work a lot together. I do photo and they do video for a lot of weddings each year. And we've kind of learned like what each other need out of the day. So for certain things, like if they're doing natural lighting in like a window for a card reading, I'll try to not use flash. We'll try to like, make it so we both get what we need out of that shot. Sometimes it doesn't work based on what we're doing, like on the dance floor or something, but we'll definitely keep each other in mind for different things while we're going through the day.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
So with mirrorless, so the first version of the Z6, I wasn't like super digging the focusing on the dance floor, but now it's had a bunch of firmware updates, and so it's pretty cool.
It helps a lot.
Now the focusing is pretty bomb, but I'm still not. I like to have a backup plan for my backup plan, as evidenced by my 400 different objects that I keep in the car to attach things. So just in case there happens to be a day where it's just giving me a problem or whatever, I've never used my focusing grid. When everyone's like, oh, the mirrorless, no focusing grid, it's so sad and I want it, like, I've never used it because videographers fucking hate those. And
Focus. Focusing
I know
group.
what you're talking about.
the red grid across
yeah,
people's faces.
Oh shit,
Predator. The Predator.
that.
Or like the green grid, like it's all bad, right?
The fucking worst.
Yeah.
And it frustrates the crap out of videographers. And the videographers that I work with, like when I say we become, it's not just like, oh, like I want to be accommodating to them. The people that I work with most, it's a group called Joseph Manassi Films. They're a couple. Literally, like we have each other's backs. Like if he sees that like the grandmother is dancing with the daughter, he will grab me and pull me over so that I get it too.
That's
like
awesome.
He'll never let me miss it. I'll never let him miss anything. And so I want to be super respectful to him. And so I just got a Lytra.
I know what those are. Yeah.
Yeah. And so my intention is to have a Velcro mechanism. Should I need to have a focus assist, I'll just stick the Lytra on, turn it on to like the first setting, because it has like 5 settings and some of them are super freaking bright. But like the first setting is good enough, and he'll be happy about it because it's just a light that he can use if he wants to, but it's not an
What is this thing?
Oh, Lytra. It's just like a little.
It's a little flat,
really
little light.
long light.
It looks like a little cube, right? It's like a little tiny cube
like
on
a
top of
little
your
cube.
camera.
The amount of light that comes out of it is.
It's a lot.
Oh, all right, dope.
It's the only thing I took for light to New Zealand.
Do you use Godox flashes?
I do not.
Nikon flashes?
Yeah.
What, Sony wasn't available? No, I'm
No.
kidding. Kidding.
I thought you were gonna say Pro Photo.
Oh, fuck.
We'll see about Pro.
Do you wear Cole Haans and do you have a leather camera strap? Because if you don't, you're not a pro photographer.
That's
learned
for
this.
guys.
I wear
That was sexist.
Kate Spade for kids and their
Dope.
glitter.
Did you say for kids?
Kids.
Okay, it's okay.
Kate Spade for kids and their glitter, and don't test me, they're gorgeous.
I believe you.
They're pink glitter. Like I wear rose gold on my feet.
That's
Oh,
fucking
that's
dope.
awesome.
That's awesome.
And then,
That's
and then, yes, I have leather straps.
Moneymakers?
I have original moneymakers.
All right, so
Dope.
you're a pro. That's cool.
They don't
All right,
make
fair enough.
them. I have had moneymakers so long that they haven't made the moneymakers I have for like 2.5 years, and I'm like,
All right, hipster, calm down.
I talked to Matt, no,
So-
I'm really concerned. I talked to Matt Swaggart, and I was like, if somebody steals my straps, what the fuck am I gonna do? You don't.
So
This shit
you've
again.
had moneymakers before moneymakers were cool. That's awesome.
Yes.
Before moneymakers were making money.
Yes. Before Matt Swaggart was making any kind of money on moneymakers, I bought one.
Nice.
Oh.
But again, they don't make that fat. Like it's that leather that's I have American Bison, but not the current American Bison. That's like 2 layers and stiff. I have this like super soft, comfortable American Bison.
That's dope.
And he doesn't make them anymore. I tried to convince him to make them custom for me, and he was like,
I can't find a fucking belt, a leather belt like that anymore. They're all stiff. This like stiff fake leather. I can't find a real nice leather like smooth belt anymore.
yeah.
Oh, and you can get one off of Ted's cow he's raising.
Yeah, there you go.
He's gonna eat it, and you can wear it.
He's gonna eat it
So,
first.
I'll do that.
That's the
So
question.
what's next for you? Are you like gonna do this until and basically just be teaching and solo shooting, or are you planning on having like a company?
She's gonna
We
grow a
have more
garden,
teams.
and we're back to gardening. Here we go.
Literally never. I have no intentions, plans, or desire to scale this company ever,
Okay.
ever. And I thought about it too, because especially in the Indian community, if I did have a sub brand, I think it would fill every single. I think I'd be able to book 100 weddings with a sub brand, because sub brands do really well in this community in general. I have no desire to manage people that way. I really like mentoring people and helping them grow. I do not like managing people.
Hey, so I have an interesting mentoring opportunity for you. It's me.
Oh my god. You guys.
Let's get in on this.
Shameless
I'm not here
plugs.
to hit me up, but yeah, no, I don't want to scale it. What I do want to do, I went from shooting like 31 to 27 to 24. I've been trying to cut down for a really long time, and I'm like really bad at it because I'm a pushover. And if a bride's like, no, I really wanted you, then I like have a really hard time saying no. This year I had 19 weddings, which for me was like, because I told myself I was going to have 15. So to have 19 was like so exciting, because I've never kept it under 20. Now I'm going to have 0. So that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, but it should be noted, one of your weddings is like at least 2 of ours, if not more.
Yeah. So when I say 30
that's a lot.
We're talking about 120 days of shooting.
Yeah, like that's a lot.
Fuck. Jesus Christ.
19 weddings is still, I think it was like 50 something days of shooting. I don't.
Yeah, because there are people that'll hear this and be like, "Oh, she only does 19 weddings." Like, no, that's not the case. Not at all.
No. And then if you add like engagement sessions, like some of the weddings are 4 days, and most of the weddings are 4 days. So, yeah, no, it's a lot. And so I'm trying to get myself down to 15 weddings, and then yes, teaching. I love teaching. I love mentoring, and I get to travel to do that, which is super exciting. But if this whole situation has taught me anything, I thought that I wanted to find a second source of income, and maybe I still do. Like, my dad is retiring, and I do want to, like, my dad's actually my favorite person ever, even if he's wrong about everything political in life.
I get that.
But he's like a person I want to spend a lot of time with, and he's retiring. And so I thought I wanted to like flip houses with him and like work on projects and stuff like that, like financial stuff that we could invest in. I'm thinking more and more after all of this that instead of trying to make more money, that I will spend less money and take 10, 15 weddings a year, teach, and then I will spend the rest of the time hanging out with my dad and not working. Like,
that's so awesome.
I can hang with my dad or my kids or my husband. Everything doesn't have to be lucrative. And that's weird for me because I do have a very like, you know, Mr. Money mustache and choose financial independence. Like, I really do like money. I like expensive shoes. I have a problem. It's an illness.
We're very close to a cure. We've been raising money for it.
I want to spend less time worrying about the amount of money I'm going to make. I feel like, do you have parents or grandparents or whoever, like my parents didn't live through the Great Depression. They just lived through being poor as shit growing up. Mm-hmm. And I never understood their, like, why must we keep every yogurt container and reuse it till it dies and put masking tape on it, even if it dies, and like use it again. But this is kind of making me appreciate that. Like, I've reused my foil suddenly.
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna learn a lot.
Yeah. Do I love my beautiful shoes? Yes.
Yeah.
But enough might be enough. And like, I would rather live this life and play board games with my kids and like hang out with my dad than
garden.
Yes, we're back to gardening. I love it.
Got that mindset. One of the most influential people in my life was my grandfather. He passed away last year, and they did live through the Great Depression. I never really understood it. I never put it in that context. I never was like, oh, because of the Great Depression. Even though I'm pretty sure they told me that's exactly why. Yeah, but they were always frugal. That was like their big thing. They're like, you have to be frugal. You have to be frugal. Like, don't spend. My grandfather grew up as a coal miner in a coal town with an alcoholic father and like really came from nothing in Western Pennsylvania and brought himself up to getting a doctorate in sociology, becoming a college professor and shit like that. So he was like, almost to the point of like judgmental of other people that didn't live this way. He's like, you know, we're going to speak correctly. We're going to, you know, carry ourselves a certain way. We're not going to, you know, do things that are considered wrong, and we're going to be frugal, and we're going to, you know, protect our assets and protect our money. And I just like not that I didn't get it, but I just didn't grow up like that. So I was like, you know, it definitely had an effect on me, and I definitely see it, and I see how to go there. I just grew up in a different, I don't know, even with that influence, it's just a different time period. So I was like, I don't need that. Now I understand it.
I grew up in a house where they were doing it I would be like,
yep.
Well, I mean, we were super poor when I was young, but we got to a place where like we were in a good place. Like, my dad's a doctor, like we were okay. But my grandmother would still like fold every plastic bag and like tuck it away, and we reuse our yogurt containers and our butter containers, and like we didn't buy like Ziploc boxes that were clear. Like, why would you buy that when you got a yogurt container at home?
Right.
Like,
what are you using that mayonnaise jar for?
Right. Like, my parents had all their spices organized in former Nescafe bottles. Like, And now I'm doing that. Now I buy, like, all of my stuff is organized now in pasta sauce bottles, because I'm like, I don't want to throw it away. It's just a clear bottle. It's
Right.
It's great.
Use it for something.
It's a perfectly good planter.
It could be a perfectly good planter. Exactly. So yeah, I think this is gonna change a lot of us. Do you guys feel like you are watching what you spend more than you ever have, even
Absolutely.
if you were good before?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
literally refreshing my account like several times a day to be like, what automated stuff do I not remember?
I canceled
Yeah.
I canceled 7 subscriptions last week.
Yeah.
2 of them were for HBO. You know what I still have after I
2 of
canceled?
them?
You know what I still have after I canceled HBO? Fucking HBO. I had 3 active HBO subscriptions.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's funny how, like, you know, when times are really good, you don't think you're wasteful spending, but you are, like,
Yeah.
and we're learning now.
I have 2 Audible accounts.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
that's-
One I was on Alexa the one night and I was like, hey, play a bedtime story for the kids. And they're like, okay. And it was like Audible tied to a different Amazon account. And they're like, do you want to start a subscription? I'm like, yeah, fuck it. Yeah, I guess. Like, I didn't need to do that. I have 12 credits on my other account I could have just used. Stupid.
I think that experiencing this is going to change our priorities and change our spending, and then in turn it's going to change commerce. Like, think about how many people depend on subscription like services, and I don't think any one of us for the next year or two is going to be like, oh, only $9 a month, sure. Like,
Right.
It doesn't matter how cheap it is. I don't want a subscription in my life right now. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's going to change how people have to sell to us. I think it's going to change how we have to sell to people, and that's okay. Like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think there will be good that comes out of it. Like, I know today I was working on building the duck house on the urban farm. That's right. We're back.
Farming.
And I got to a part where it was like, I was out of certain materials. And usually if this was a normal time, I wouldn't just make the stuff I have work. I would just run the Lowe's and buy more and keep buying more until I got exactly what I want. But instead it was like, oh shit, I have to actually use these tools now that I have to make what I have work. And it was kind of cool in a way. Like, you know.
I want to bake sourdough bread so bad, but I don't have a Dutch oven, and you need a Dutch oven to put the sourdough in and then cover it and put it in the oven.
Right.
And then you have to take the lid off and whatever, and it needs the sides to climb. And I don't have one. And I don't want to spend $288 right now. So I'm like, how am I going to bake sourdough bread without an oven? Like,
There's got to be a way.
Figure it out. So I'm trying to figure it out. Apparently you could potentially, if you don't care about the shape as much, put it on a pan, put it in, and then put in like a baking dish full of water, because it's the moisture that
Get 2 fire bricks, man. You'll be fine. Just stick them on the other side. I'm serious.
There's got to
I'm
be
serious.
a way, because
That's what they used in the fucking ancient times. They used clay and water, man. Bricks.
Well, I was going to get to too. Sourdough was huge in the Civil War. They would make it at their camps. There's got to be a way.
Yeah, with Dutch ovens.
I'm not.
You're a Dutch oven.
Yeah. Not gonna buy anything
Right.
I don't have to buy. So
It's going to be cool to see how this changes everything, or bad. Who knows? But we'll see.
What are you looking at business wise? Like, what are some things that you're trying to focus on now? I know some people are going from that typically did in-person meetings to, like, even if they're having consultations or any of that kind of stuff, they're doing it online.
So I haven't met people in person in 6 years.
Yeah.
Years. I don't meet anybody.
I never do.
Yeah. So that hasn't changed for me. I do have a lot of people who have been lazy about their albums, who are suddenly like, we want to work on our albums. I'm like, cool, let's prepay for that shit, because let me tell you, labs are closed. Like,
right.
But if I upsell them right now and get their stuff done, then I don't have to worry about it when life is back.
Yeah.
And when the labs open up, we'll order the books. And in the meantime, you're going to have to wait. That's what it is.
There's been some talk with people about, like, you know, is this going to create smaller weddings? Is this going to push people towards smaller gatherings and shit like that? What's that?
I don't think it is in this community that I serve.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
50 people is like immediate. Even for me, 50 people is immediate family. Like, I hosted my brother's wedding in my backyard this year.
Wow, really?
Shit was expensive. Yeah. So I hosted his wedding in my backyard because we have 3/4 of an acre. There's space back there.
Way to flex.
Yeah.
Weird flex, but okay.
Kind of a tiny yard, but anyway.
For that far up in New Jersey, that's fucking
Yeah, I was
huge.
gonna say that's probably huge.
It was enough to fit like 8 tables and put 100 people, and those 100 people were like, it was the hardest list to cut up because we had to cut family, which would be like, sorry cousins, you can't come, you're not close enough. I don't know, it was hard. And I don't think that Indian people are going to be able to do it. And then here's the truth. They're doctors. And so while they're feeling this on a really emotional kind of PTSD level, they're not feeling it on a financial level. And so I'm not sure it changes their habits that way. And they're not living the social distancing stress the same way. They're living it in a more tangible way. Their fear is so much deeper than the person walking too close to us.
Right.
Plus, they have to see society telling them it's not real as they then go into the hospital to be like, oh, so all these refrigeration trucks full of bodies that I just went through, I guess that's not real.
That's what I was talking to these guys about the other day. We were having a conversation about like how, are at a certain price point and a certain type of client, you're looking at people who probably aren't feeling this that much. People who are on like salaried positions, who are working from home, things like that, aren't feeling this.
Not feeling it. Yeah,
they may be inconvenienced.
Yeah.
But
my best friend and her husband are home and they're both working. And now they have the kids at home, but everybody has the kids at home. So their meetings, it's understood that like the kids might be around.
My grocery bill's a little higher,
That makes sense.
But I'm eating out less.
Right? My husband is not. He's ordering lunch as often as possible.
You have to support the local economy, okay?
That's what he said.
It's somebody's responsibility. No, what's crazy is
all business alive.
My wife's cousin and I were talking the other day, and he's like, "Yeah, I got to go into work." I'm like, "What the fuck are you going to work for?" He's like, "I work at a law firm." He's like, "Law still has to happen." I was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds essential." now that you say it, makes sense.
Well, when you say it that way.
But I think like for our like my market, for other markets, they don't feel it the same way. Yeah. And that's like I'm not trying to say they don't feel it. Like, just to be clear, doctors and nurses feel it the fucking worst.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense what you're saying.
But not like that same. They're just living a different life right now, and I think that they might come out of it just being like, okay, now that it's finally safe, I just want to be happy. Yeah. Like, so. Yeah, I think that my niche won't be as affected once it's actually officially over. Like, they're all doctors and nurses. They're going to be like, hand me that vaccine, bitch. Like, as soon as it's available for emergency use, they're going to get it. So I think, and all their families are going to get it. Like, Indian people tend to be big science believers. So I think we'll go back to big weddings eventually. Like, I know people are thinking weddings will change permanently, but I think they forget that this happened before. Like, we've had pandemics before. We've had a shutdown before, just not in our lifetime. Yeah. And people have surprisingly short memories.
Yeah.
That is so true.
Yeah. And
you watch Hunters?
No, but did you read? Tell me about it after this. Did you read that article about the gaslighting is coming?
Yes.
That to me, it's not gonna. I think that's gonna help people forget. Like, when you have millions, if not billions, of dollars thrown at you to tell you it's all fine now. Like,
the thing with the people believing in the small weddings, I think that comes back to fear again. That they really don't want to accept the future we're looking at right now, and so they're just clinging to any little bit of hope.
Like, old people get to shoot anything at all.
Right. Like, I mean, people maybe, unemployment they're not sure if they're going to get it right now. They didn't get any of the aid. They don't have enough saved, which is probably 99% of our industry.
That's where
so they're just saying like, oh, well, I can probably do engagement sessions when phase 1 opens, or maybe they'll do 50 people at this wedding or less. I think it's a defense mechanism right now.
I think 50, I think the thing it is a defense mechanism 100%, but I think that defense mechanism puts them at risk because they're not dealing with reality.
Right.
And so when you're not dealing with reality, you're not planning for reality. And like, the reality is, sure, maybe they'll have a 50 people wedding and maybe they'll space the 50 seats out for the ceremony. What happens at the reception?
Yeah.
And if you tell a client, hey, you're going to have a half-assed wedding with a ceremony,
full price,
full price, and your reception is going to be kind of the weirdest fucking reception with no dancing, like, are they going to want to have that?
That's a good point.
And that was the post that I made today. It was literally just that, like saying, hey, this is what it's looking like. What are our plans? And people were literally like, these posts have to stop. This is just speculation. And you're like, this literally just came from the news conference. Like, I'm just saying, you know.
Look, the timeline is speculation. That's for sure, right? We don't know what month it'll be. But if we're realistic, it'll be later, later, more likely than earlier.
Right.
Like that's the reality. Like, without a vaccine or a treatment, let's say we start having weddings, right? When people start dropping dead, they'll stop.
Right.
Like, it's not about whether the governor shuts down the economy or the president opens the economy. When you hear stories about there was a wedding and then 10 people from the wedding died, you're not going to have another wedding because people are going to be they don't want to kill their grandma.
Right.
Like, who's I got married and then my grandma died. Like, so my sons have a severe peanut allergy.
Mm.
Both of them.
Yeah, because you didn't expose them early enough, Charmi. We covered this.
You son of a bitch, Mike.
Should have started sooner. If I had just started before they were
conceived. Come on. Week one.
Just eat a peanut a day.
Stop. Don't do that. Please, no one do that.
So, well, funny enough, they're in something called OIT, oral immunotherapy. Mm-hmm. So they were exposed to like 0.01 milligrams and then 0.2 milligrams. And like, they've been going up from there, and their therapy is currently paused. And the reason it's paused, and it's important therapy, like this will save their lives if it works. And so far we're at 12 milligrams, which is a big deal. But 12 milligrams to 24 is very much like a make or break kind of time period. And we're paused right now. And the reason we're paused is every time we drive to the office, we're taking a risk, and we could end up in the hospital if we have an accident, and the hospitals are overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And every time they updose is going from like 12 milligrams to the next dose up, they could have a reaction, and then we have to go to the hospital, and the hospitals are overwhelmed. Right. And so their therapy is paused right now because the safest course of action is to not drive and not go places unless it's necessary. And it's not like just to protect other people. It's to protect them. Like, we get in the car, we drive, our car flips over, and God knows that can happen because it happened to me. Do I want to take my kids to the hospital right now? Like, I don't want to take my son almost, we didn't know if he broke his finger or he sprained it 2 days ago. And we did a telemedicine appointment with his doctor. And his doctor was like, listen to me. Anytime in the next 48 hours, if you think his finger is broken, do not go to the ER, period. Like, because we live one street away from the hospital. I can see the tented area. Like, so he's like, don't go. You call me. I'll call my friend. Like, he doesn't like know us like that. He's our doctor, but he's like, I'll call my friend who's an orthopedic surgeon. You can go to his office. I'll get you in. He'll meet you there. He'll scan his finger and he'll cast it if necessary, but you don't go to the ER. So for me, those sessions, the porch sessions, in theory, it's supposed to be like you walk next door and take a picture of that person, right? But I've seen people talk about, I'm going to drive over to this neighborhood this day. And then I've seen, and we're talking about judging the photographers, and I'm not. I know they need to eat, but so does everybody who doesn't have a job. Right. And that's 22 million people right now.
Right.
But also, from a mom perspective, I've seen in mom groups, I've seen moms be like, I'm going to have my makeup done for the porch session. I have somebody come
for fuck's sake. Yeah.
I need to go shopping to buy clothes for my porch session.
Yeah.
So now we've created a little mini industry of a lot of traveling unnecessarily.
Yeah, and that's what we're saying. It's like, I'm not saying do that at all, and definitely not supporting that. It's a really stupid thing to do.
Yeah, it's fair.
Right.
It's
right.
I
think it's just these people are fucking animals kind of like perspective where I'm like,
No.
All right, let's relax. Let's fucking relax. Yeah.
You don't need to talk about it like
Right.
that.
Right. Yeah, it's a bad idea. Don't do it. Right. It's illegal. Don't do it.
It's illegal, yeah.
But right.
I mean, forget the illegal legal part. Like, you are putting yourself at risk. You
Absolutely.
take the road and you go to that neighborhood, you get in one accident, you're
People
going
don't think of that shit, man. I see kids riding, and like, this is fine, whatever. But like, I'm of this thing. I'm like, I don't want to be a goaltender for anybody else's happiness. Some comedians made a whole joke about that one time, but like, it's true. I don't want to stop anybody from doing what they want to do. But I see people riding quads down the street in my neighborhood because they're, kids are out of school or at home all day up the street. I'm like, yo, if you fucking just roll just once, like an easy accident to have on a quad, roll and pop your fucking knee out. What are you gonna do? You go to the hospital?
Like, literally all my mom friends are like, stop jumping on that. We can't go to the hospital right
Dude,
now.
My wife today on the swing.
The hospital right now is our like mantra.
Real quick, Mike looks like he's in a fucking noir murder film with that lighting, with like whatever's going on there.
Are you a private detective?
What's up, Sin City? Put the fucking pencil down, bro. You got a computer with a keypad in front of you. Oh my god, so awesome. Dude. Seriously, this was really awesome. Hey, if people wanna find you online and find your photos and all kind of stuff, where can they look?
So charmipeña.com, brand new website, yay!
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, the for photographer section is super not fleshed out, but it's gonna be. Hey, come in. It's gonna be fleshed out because I'm gonna do like portfolio review. So my favorite part of teaching is like helping people see the best of their work.
Nice.
I think a lot of people don't see the best of their work. They just see their work and they get emotionally attached to it, and they're not able to tell the difference between like their good work and their amazing work.
Yeah.
So I love portfolio reviews and like going through people's work and being like, did you even know that this was amazing? Because most of the time they don't. And yeah, so I'm going to do some portfolio reviews for people who sign up, and then and you can find me on Instagram, charmipeña.com. And unless you care about my politics, don't follow me on Twitter.
Dope.
Cool.
I love it. That's so awesome. Seriously, thanks for coming on. This was absolutely great.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Everybody